Hi, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap, a podcast where we talk about video games, why we love them, and anything else that happens to be on our mind. On this beautiful California day, on the panel, we've got Ian Hink.
Hi.
Bradley Ellis.
Hi.
Michael Huber.
I'm sick yet again.
You're sick yet again.
Always sick.
It's because of this dang P90X, Huber.
No.
It's bad for your body.
See, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm in the best shape of my life right now.
Sure.
Physically and like health-wise. I'm eating right. Eating salads for lunch, like shakes in the morning, chicken and peas and carrots for dinner.
Right, but
I'm
if you're
exercising.
If you're exercising too much, you need more calories. You need more protein, not
I do.
less
I got my
protein,
shakes,
not
got
less
my recovery
calories.
drink. I'm on
Not
the full,
fewer calories.
Fewer. I'm on the full thing, Ian, and then I get
You're the full
sick.
program?
I'm on the full program, man.
Hubert, man, you just get sick no matter what.
Yeah.
You just get sick.
You just get sick all the time, no matter what your
Have
diet
you been
is.
sleeping well?
I've been sleeping well. The last couple weeks have been really stressful.
Sure.
Just
They've
trying to get everything
been
done.
stressful for me, too.
So I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
Yeah.
I see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is within my grasp right now.
And you're clinging onto that. You're looking forward
Exactly.
to getting to the end of that tunnel.
And the light is episode 8.
I'm your host, Ben Moore. Ian's looking at something.
I'm looking at the mixer.
Looking at the mixer. How's the mixer doing?
Yeah, making
Just
sure we're
checking something.
recording here.
Yeah. Is the mixer a fan of Star Wars? Because something happened, and with this panel specifically, Jones isn't here. He would be the obvious other addition. But we had a teaser come out for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and it's so great because when it came out, Huber just got on Slack and started freaking out, like, "Wake me up in December." On every
Ben,
channel we had, it was like
say,
Star
did you
Wars,
notice he
Star
did
Wars,
every
Star Wars on every channel.
Yeah, I went to
Slack.
events and I'm like, oh, are we talking about at E3? No, it's just Huber saying Star Wars. Yeah. What did you guys think of that teaser? How did it make you feel?
Made me feel good.
Made you feel good.
Made me feel anxious.
Yeah.
It's funny because a couple months ago, I did an episode about movies on Huber syndrome, and I was like, I think it's time for that Star Wars trailer. Like, what's the deal? It's coming up. It's like 8 months away, 10 months away. Let's get that trailer.
Right.
And now I'm filled with regret because, when it was not on my mind, I could go to sleep easy, wake up easy. I know it's coming. Now that I see this trailer,
You're impatient.
I'm impatient. The wait is unbearable. I need answers. I want to see some sick lightsaber battles. I want to see Luke Skywalker in action.
I want to bring something up. When Hubert talks about laying awake at night and thinking about something, that's not a joke. That's 100% serious. Like, I know most people would probably kid around and say stuff like that. That's not a joke with Michael Huber.
I lose
Wait.
sleep.
Does that just mean you're on your back, like eyes popped,
Yes.
just Kylo Ren?
Yeah, I'll be just like laying there,
Yeah.
deep in thought.
Uh-huh. About
And then-
the current obsession.
Yeah, and then I'll be so like
The current obsession.
Good example is like, all right, Kylo Ren, thinking about him for like 10 minutes on my mind. What's gonna happen? And then I'll reach over and grab my phone and like Wikipedia Knights of Ren, and then like go into that, do some research, like, and then the cycle just continues. And then an hour later, I'm just all right. Gotta go to bed. Gotta sleep.
In my headcanon, you're just sitting there staring at the ceiling, but your mind is kind of blank for like a couple of minutes, and then just that thought, Knights of Ren.
Knights of Ren. Yeah.
It just comes to you, a rush of inspiration to get more information. Yeah.
The Star Wars trailer for me, it's like when I see a new Star Wars trailer, especially for a mainline one, it's like coming home, kind of thing like that. It reminds me of like when I was really little.
Yeah.
We'd go to Disneyland the next day, or like on Christmas Eve, just thinking about what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I showed, like, here's a good example of how I think of it too. I talked to my dad yesterday, and I was like, Dad, do you want to see the new Star Wars trailer? And I've never seen my dad do this in my entire life, ever. He goes, yeah. And he goes, ask me if I want to see new Star Wars trailers, like if I want to hear a new Beatles song.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, Dad, I've literally never heard that from you my entire life.
I really like the way he said that.
Yeah.
Like, of course I want to see this. So you talk about it coming home, Brad. I got a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think anything Star Wars can do that, or do
No.
you think it's something specific with this movie?
I mean,
the
not
way
everything
that
Star
trailer-
Wars does it for me.
Sure. So
Like,
what was it
Rogue
about
One-
this time?
I don't know. I think it's just like the legacy of carrying on, especially with like the Skywalker family and carrying on that legacy. Like Rogue One was cool and everything, but I didn't have as much the connection because I'm invested in that story
Yeah.
that I have been with my whole life, even though they're all
4
connected.
decades.
But yeah, it's like I'm a part of that family.
Yeah. How'd it make you feel, Ian?
I'm excited for the movie.
Okay. Why are you excited?
I mean, it's a Star Wars movie, like, and I think that they've shown that they know what's what enough that it's going to be a blast in theaters, pretty guaranteed.
So you're saying your enjoyment of The Force Awakens has made your excitement here kind of a sure bet.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people who I love Star Wars. I love it, but I can also just let it be what it is. Like I loved Rogue One because I didn't care that it didn't need to be some perfect thing for me. It could just be a fun Star Wars movie, and I'd watch it, and then I'd go home and like think about it. I loved it, and talk about it, but they don't need to be these perfect like pinnacles of artistic achievement for me. They just need to be a fun Star Wars movie.
You've kind of just placed them in a certain category in your brain, and you're totally content with that.
Well, because they're parables, they're fables. Like their stories are, by definition, since the inception of these films, is pretty hero's journey, mythic, archetypal kind of stuff. Yeah. And so, like, to me, things like, oh, well, why is Rey so good at suddenly using a lightsaber? Like, how does she know how to use ships and stuff like that? Like, I'm like, because this is a fairy tale. It's fun. It's great. Like, why freak out about it? But yeah, I'm jazzed as hell about it.
Cool. A concern that I have, and I feel like it's kind of hypocritical since we're talking about it on this podcast, but I'm sort of like you, Ian, where I'm looking forward to it. I kind of take them as they are, and I have a good time. I'm not going on and trying to look up fan theories or all that stuff ridiculous. Not that you can't do that, not that you can't enjoy it. It's just not my thing for this particular series. But every time I go on YouTube now, or a lot of the gaming sites that I go to, every single...
You have to say it in the Wesker voice.
Complete global saturation. Where even if I'm not actively looking for it, it's constantly barraging me in the face. People picking this thing apart to death. Yeah. And it kind of gets under my skin because I feel like I just want to get there. I just want to get there and enjoy it and have that moment feel special. I don't need to be constantly reminded of it every second of every day. Do you think that's a little bit too cynical? Do you think I'm...
Just gotta block it out, Ben.
How do you block it out? Just avoid the internet?
Don't click on those articles is step one, to avoid it. I mean, sure, right now, because of the Star Wars Celebration, the headlines are plastered on every single website in every single corner. That will fade away in the coming weeks. Yeah. And then other than that, just don't go hunting.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think it's cynical, Ben. Like, Star Wars means a lot to me. I'm, like, super attached to that series, but totally, like,
it's gonna be
cool.
nuts.
Once you cool it a little bit, sure, I get it.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, it's also our job. We're talking about it right now, and like, so I get it. It is funny that you go on Polygon or whatever right now at the time of this filming, and literally every article is Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Episode 8, Star Wars related somehow. And I think that is interesting, but like you said, it's very much in the zeitgeist right now.
Yeah, but like on the positive side, like, this is a moment.
Sure.
Yeah. This is the first trailer for Episode 8. I know it's not... Like, when Episode 7 came out, that was even more special because it was, like, the beginning of the new era. But still, this feels more special than I thought it would when Episode 7 hit.
Right.
Because when Episode 7 came out, I made a really big deal. I was like, this is not going to really happen again. Like, we're going to get a Star Wars movie every year after this for the next... ever.
7.
So, like, Episode 7 was so special, and I'm surprised now, after Episode 7, after Rogue One, that the feeling of the world right now is like, oh my god, Star Wars Episode 8, this is amazing hype. Like,
well, I have to wonder
it just
if
felt so good.
If it's because Empire is generally regarded as the best one, and also because the middle... Just structurally speaking, the middle film of a trilogy is always the darkest and most intense and most insane. And so I'm wondering, and the trailer gives you that impression too, like, whoa, things are going to get kind of real here. The thing I'm worried about, that I really hope they don't spend a long time dwelling on, is...
Rey on the island?
Rey on the island, training montage. Like, we got that with Luke and Dagobah. We got that, like, don't do Batman Dark Knight Rises, where we get just another origin story in the third movie for no reason. Like, don't spend too much time on that. And, like, the thing that makes me worried is when Luke in the trailer says the Jedis need to fade away, or what, it's the time for the Jedis to be over, or whatever he says. That makes me nervous because, like, we were talking about this beforehand, like Luke Cage, the Netflix series or whatever, he spends like X number of episodes being like, I don't do that anymore. Or like, it's like if John Wick was like the first 2 hours of him just going like, no, I retired. And it's like, the audience, we're like, we know you're going to do it. We know the Jedi aren't going to go away. Just do it. Just go. Come on. Don't waste 30 minutes. Just do the thing. You know?
I mean, it's all about how they do that.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. I hope they do it right.
Like the Dagobah stuff with Yoda, like Empire's, like some of my favorite things, like in movies. Period.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But I totally.
But we
get
don't
it.
need to see it again.
Yeah,
We don't need Luke as Yoda and Rey as
how they
Luke.
do it. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is gonna like show shades of the past. You know, it's all poetry.
You know, it's all
Something that
cyclical.
Yeah.
I do like that you were talking about, this feeling different. I think part of the reason is before with Episode 7, it was just kind of a Star Wars is back. Star Wars is being given to this different person. What's going to happen? And that excitement, the excitement of the unknown, what are these characters going to be like? Are they going to live up to our expectations? But now that we know those characters, now we're invested in those storylines.
Yeah.
And that's a much different feeling.
Absolutely.
And I think that is very exciting. And
Well, and Rian Johnson writing and directing this movie, which is like such a crazy
That
thing.
blows my mind,
That
yeah.
they gave him that much freedom and power to craft his own thing. This feels like a huge blockbuster, but with like a auteur indie sentiment to it. Whereas
Which is what
Abrams-
Star Wars should feel like.
yeah.
Right.
Whereas, J.J. Abrams, pretty blockbuster director. I like J.J. Abrams, but he's more a blockbuster. And then the next episode 9 is going to be the Jurassic World director Colin Trevorrow. And I know Trevorrow didn't even write episode 9, so this one just feels
Sure. Yeah.
Worried about
special.
9.
like all of the correct things are falling into
yes,
place.
yeah, all the scenarios and pieces are in place.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to check in. I know it was a big thing. I know it was on all of your minds. I wanted to gauge how you felt. But
Thought the trailer was great.
Is Finn going to be in cryosleep for like the whole movie?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I also want to talk about video games. Because
What are those?
once again, another frame trap. Everybody's been playing stuff that they're all really excited about. And I have a lot of thoughts on it. And Ian, you've got stuff.
I've been playing.
You've been playing a lot of games.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
Well, uncharacteristically for me, I've been playing multiple games at the same time. This is like the last 3 months have been bonkers for games that I actually care about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've dipped my toes into the Dark Souls DLC. I've been playing Nier Automata.
Yeah.
I've been playing Zelda, and I've been playing Persona 5.
Before we get started on those, on the specifics with all of those,
Yeah.
how's it feel playing multiple games?
Good. It's stressful. Like there was a moment yesterday where I found myself with a few hours, and I sat there and I was frozen with indecision. It was an embarrassment of riches. And what I ended up doing actually was funny. This was after we played Battlegrounds for Easy Update, which is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of
Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. We should all play it for a stream like this.
I saw it like huge on Twitch.
Yeah, it'll be bonkers. It's a battle royale. 100 people come in, one last man standing.
Oh,
Game
that's
mode.
kind of cool.
It's pretty rad. But
Yeah.
so after I did that, I was like, I had equal desire to play Zelda, Persona, and Dark Souls, and so I, for some reason, wound up checking out the new character creator in Elite Dangerous for 40 minutes. But then I played Persona. But yeah, it's crazy to. Is this what it's like for you guys all the time?
You were talking about it being stressful. Is it stressful just because you kind of want to play everything equally?
At the same time,
And
yeah.
so you end up doing something
Right.
less because
Yeah,
you can't
yeah,
decide between the.
Yeah.
That's why I watch a lot of TV.
Well, this is rare for me because normally I don't care about. Like, usually I care about one game and then I beat it and then there's 3 months of nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas right now I'm like, there are 4 games I want to be playing literally right now.
And they're all pretty
Big,
beastly. I mean,
long, yeah.
besides for the Dark Souls DLC, you can maybe
Yeah.
argue short. But all of these things, dozens of hours long.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you feel the most enthused about? Is there one?
For sure, Zelda and Persona 5.
Okay.
Which is weird because I'm, a Souls game has new content.
Yeah.
And I find myself playing Persona 5 or Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm near the end of Zelda. I could probably go beat it whenever. I'm just kind of doing world stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few items I haven't gotten that I want to get before trying the end. But yeah, in Persona 5, I've done the first big thing. Finished that.
Okay.
So
question about Zelda. Maybe you've already talked about this, but what is it that has kept you on the horse?
it's just so good.
Yeah.
That is a well-made, respectful game.
And that's a big thing for you.
Yeah.
Is respecting the player. And you
Yes.
think Zelda does that.
I do, and it doesn't waste your time. It doesn't have. I think for me, it's the perfect mix. It's lore-based storytelling, which I really like. And yeah, there's dialogue and stuff, and things are funny, but it has that right mood where it makes everything kind of feel jolly and fun. Mm-hmm. And the world is so well designed that it's kind of crazy. Like it really incentivizes exploration, and you don't mind exploring.
Mm-hmm. Everything has value.
Everything has value. And like, if you get to the top of a mountain and you find a chest, you're like, whoa, cool. And then arrows actually feel valuable. You find arrows in this game, and you're like, yes!
Mm-hmm.
Crappy wooden arrows that in any other game I'd be like, gypped. But now I'm like, yeah, 5 arrows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you get to that mountain and you don't find anything, you then look across the way and you're like, those rocks are in a circle. That's a thing. I'm going to go over there. Or like, I found some island trial thing, that you probably know what I'm talking about, just because I looked at it and I said, that looks kind of weird and cool. So I went over there. Yeah, I love it. And just the way it plays is really cool. It's Dark Souls-y, but not, like, the combat is serviceable. It's good. It's not, as accurate, I think, as like a Souls game or whatever.
No,
but
it's not.
But it's fine for this game.
I think there's more depth to it than most Zelda games.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is I feel like it doesn't make you use any of it, which is kind of a letdown. Like the parry system in it is like you never really have to ever use that, ever.
You're right. I think there is a lot of depth that you don't have to use, but what I like about that depth is if you do master it, it just makes your life so much easier.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way of
There was one
handling
boss that I could not beat until I started just flurry striking him, and then I just destroyed him without getting hit. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Definitely step in the right direction for that series, I'd say.
Well, and they hit hard. So you're
They
always
do.
always got to be on your toes, which I really like. If you could take a lot more hits, I think I would have had a problem with the combat. Not necessarily a problem, but I would have been like less enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
The fact that you can just get punished so quickly and surprisingly made me love every encounter.
And the game scales really well in a weird way. I'm still not sure how it scales. Is it by number of shrines? I don't know. But like, the enemies keep getting harder with me, and I'm not like, they don't have levels. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting.
But you talking about how hard the enemies hit, and you said a phrase earlier, everything has value, and I think that's a really good example, because I think in a lot of other games where you're sort of getting apples to heal yourself or going out and collecting all these herbs and all that stuff, you get to a point where you get so strong that you just don't need it anymore. So that's one element, that's one reason to explore that just kind of gets cut out. Doesn't really happen in Zelda. A lot of very basic stuff that I was excited to find at the beginning of the game, I still was excited to find at the end of the game, because enemies just keep hitting hard.
Yeah.
And so they make that
apples.
relevant.
I remember like when I was gearing up for the final trial thing, I'm hunting for apples. I'm like, man, I need more food.
Yeah.
One of the best reasons why that exists is because of the durability system in the game. Because when weapons break, it's kind of a big deal sometimes, especially if you're in a certain spot with them. Shields break, so you're thinking about every single thing you're doing a lot more than you usually would.
And at first, it's interesting because systems that at first seem kind of like the weapons breaking so frequently in the beginning of the game, I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And now I find myself, and I've got like a good number of slots, and I find myself kind of hoping that the weapon I'm using will break, just so I can like, because I like all my weapons, they're all good. So it's like, I need to clear out some riffraff here.
I always love jumping over those mental barriers in the game where you understand that you don't have to play it like every other video game, because I think in a lot of other video games, I always bring up the Resident Evil example. Save onto those Magnum bullets. To the end of the game, you're going to need them. Using against the final boss. That kind of horde mentality, I think, is very prevalent and beneficial in a lot of games. With Zelda, it's just like, let it break.
Yeah.
You're going to find something else.
Yeah.
You're going to find something else immediately.
You're going to find something else better. They
Yeah.
scale that, too, so it's like I'm not finding crappy little weapons as frequent.
Right.
You know?
And
Dude, spears in this game?
yeah.
God,
The thing I love
Step.
the thing I love about this game too is because I'm the kind of person that I know my general playstyle that I like. I play Dark Souls, I play Bloodborne, I play with the fast, light, repetitive hit weapons.
Yeah.
That's just how I like to play. And the durability breaking has forced me to use
Yeah.
every kind of weapon. I still prefer the quicker weapons, but I'm using giant axes that I would never use in another game just because it's what I've got.
Right.
nice.
But
And it's
Good
fun.
job,
I
Zelda.
like
Yeah,
that. I like it.
Isn't it
Got
great
using
when
a big
a game
axe.
forces you out of your comfort zone
Yeah.
and makes you feel good about it?
And makes you
That's it.
think about it. Like,
Yeah.
I switch weapons around a lot based on the situation I'm in. Like, oh, I've got a lightning weapon. This is going to be really good against this person because they're wearing a lot of metal. Like, oh, I need this choo-choo to be red because I need to upgrade this thing. I'm going to hit him with a fire weapon. Like, all that kind of stuff makes you think. Like, oh no, it's raining. I got to switch to wood stuff. Like, I love it.
So I didn't look up any like strats or anything until I finished the game.
Yeah.
The lightning strikes killed me like 3 times.
Oh, right.
So then when the game was over, I like looked into it and it's like, oh, you were wearing metal.
Yeah, you're wearing metal.
And I'm just like,
Well, the game
oh!
tells you that because little sparkles start showing up on your stuff. But at first you're like, why do I
was
keep
like,
getting
what
hit?
is happening?
You got to take off like your bow. You got to take off your shield.
I do think they make it obvious, but something that Zelda does that a lesser game wouldn't do is in a lesser game, the first time that lightning storm came up, a big dialogue box would be like, oh, hey, it's raining. This is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Whereas here, even though it's obvious, you kind of have that sensation of, wait, it's going to electrocute me. I got to unequip that stuff. And just having that moment when you recognize what you have to do, even though it's obvious, it's kind of nice, like you said, that the game respects your intelligence, that you can figure it out.
I do recall seeing some dialogue box about electricity hitting you, but maybe I'm just misremembering. But yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm giving credit to something that it
Well, I
actually
mean,
does.
well,
but I
either
don't-
way, it doesn't really talk about how if you get electrocuted by an enemy, you'll often drop whatever you're holding. Like that's hugely punishing.
Yeah, and you're right. There are dialogue boxes in the game that do pop up, but
Yeah.
they never felt very intrusive or that they ruined a lot
Right.
of the magic of,
Yeah.
of figuring stuff out on your own. That's my larger point. Maybe they do, I guess.
Well, and also
talk about the
like
lightning,
this
but-
this game has done to me what Dark Souls 1 did to me with video games, where it's changed my expectations of how all video games should function. Whereas like Dark Souls did it with controls and the lore and all that kind of stuff, where like after playing something like Skyrim or something at the time, I was just like, I literally cannot bring myself to do this because it doesn't play like that, and that works so well for me. This game has made me in every other game, I'm trying to climb stuff. I'm trying to paraglide. Like, I fell off a cliff in Dark Souls and hit the paraglide button in Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait, right. That's not how this game works. But, like, it just is so good. Like, that's how open world games should work. It's like, you can climb whatever.
Yeah, because think about it. So many games, so many open world games are like, hey, we built this huge world, go explore every part of it. And you're like, yeah, but exploring every part of it is kind of exhausting and a pain in the ass.
Right.
Like here, I mean, there's rain pretty often that prevents some of your exploration.
Rain is the worst.
But by and large, you just go there. You just jump off
Yeah.
that cliff and you fly. You
And you
go
just
to that
fly.
one.
And that freedom of exploration leads to new discoveries so frequently. Like, I was flying down to this crazy shrine that I figured out was there, and then I look to my left and it's sunset, and I see like 30 things of luminous stone, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And so I like mark it on my map. I'm like, treasure, because I need those to upgrade this weird glowing suit I have.
I have a question for Brad. Brad Ellis.
Yeah.
Zelda enthusiast.
Yeah.
Big Zelda enthusiast. Probably your favorite franchise. One or two favorite franchises. Now that the dust has settled, dust has cleared or the dust has settled, Ian? What do we...
Settled, I think.
Dust has settled? Okay, the dust has settled. I'm interested to see where your head's at in terms of, not necessarily where this ranks, But just like looking back on Breath of the Wild, like how has it changed your mind on the franchise? Or is it...
Yeah, it did. For me, it did what it set out to do the most, I think, and that is the world and the exploration kind of all that thing. I think that's the thing they're focusing the most on this game. Like, you could totally tell Dungeons are obviously the weakest part of this game. I'm sure you can agree with that, Ben.
Yeah, I think they are.
Big step back. Really great step. I like the direction they're going with this series. I hope they do focus more on Dungeons a little more and how they're going to address the story from now on. Because I know they struggle with doing the story for this game because, you know, you can go anywhere at any time. How are we going to tell it kind of thing like that instead of maybe just going to memory, getting a flashback.
Yeah.
Like,
so if they did Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever the hell, like the next Zelda, if they did exactly this open world, but with more substantial dungeons, you would be pleased.
I think Brett is onto something with the story stuff too, though, because. Well, I liked getting a lot of the story from the flashbacks. I think it was kind of a very rigid, this is where the story is, go out and find those pictures. Where I wish it could have been a little bit more unorthodox sometimes, where they throw a wrench in it somehow. Like maybe you go to one of these locations and actually a major character is there, and they send you in a different direction. Like there, like at some point where it surprises you and plays with that.
Because most of the characters in the game are from the past, kind of thing like that. So you never really get to see them that much.
Well, and they don't. In my experience, having done 4/5 of the main things, they don't seem to switch the script ever. Like flip the script ever, where it's like. You do the beast, and that's how it works, and this is what you get, and then it's done, you know.
Yeah.
And I also was surprised that the Divine Beast dungeons were shorter than they were, or than old dungeons, you know.
Yeah.
But the flip side to that is like the entire world is a huge dungeon, and like the quality of the world is so much better, in my opinion, than most open world games.
That's the thing it loses from that.
Yeah,
it's they
so
focus
it's like
so much on
it's a give and take.
Like maybe if they tone back on the shrines, kind of like being like, I feel like most of the puzzles in the game are from the shrines, kind of thing. Like, which I love the shrines, but I love to see some more of that in the dungeons, kind of thing.
The more that time has gone on, the more I love shrines, and the more that I think they were.
I like shrines
because it's where all the really clever puzzles are and everything like that. Some unique stuff.
Right, because again, making a comparison to other open world games, when you go off the beaten path, when you go to the top of the mountain, usually just find like an item or something or a rare monster, and it's you pick it up or you kill it and you're done, or you gather it or whatever. In Breath of the Wild, you go and you also find those things. You get the Korok seeds, you get the minerals that you need or whatever it is, but you also, the shrines extend that feeling a little bit. That feeling of I found something. Let me dig deeper to get that reward.
That's the game
that's
rewarding
so
exploration. That's its like biggest strength. To me, kind of thing like that.
And it's genius that the shrines function as fast travel points too.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like not only are you earning whatever's in the shrine, but you're earning that area of the map.
Right.
Basically.
And the way that they divide the rewards up amongst the shrines, I mean, obviously you get an orb at the end, but sometimes you'll get gear that will help you climb better. Sometimes you'll get a super good weapon.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get a rare material. Having a nice diversity of stuff makes you want to get out and explore as many of them as possible to get as much as possible, and that's really good. Really good design.
Do we know how many there are?
120, I think.
120.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like 900 seeds.
Yeah, I heard there are 900 seeds.
900
You need
seeds.
400 of them to fully upgrade, or some crazy thing like that.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on from Zelda, I know a lot of people are excited. I'm very excited. Michael Huber, you might bounce here.
Yeah,
you just don't
need
want to hear
water
any.
anyway, and
Sure.
to blow my nose.
I want to hear your opinion
I know
on.
I know that they're gonna be sick of hearing.
Yeah, yeah. These new mics are really good.
people
or
love
the
you,
new
Huber.
mixer.
I love you.
Punished Huber.
Talking about Persona 5, and Brad, you've been playing a lot of Persona 5 as well.
You know I have.
And I feel bad because as the one that reviewed it, I feel like I've just had a natural monopoly on the conversation. So I just kind of want to sit back and hear what you guys think of it. Especially, Ian, I do want to start off with one particular question.
Yeah, I'm newer to the franchise.
Because you played 4 and you liked 4, but you didn't finish 4.
I wanted to. I just because I was playing it on normal, and I don't know. I'm not as good at video games as you three, but like there came a difficulty spike in one of the dungeons. I think it was the dungeon of the like creepy red herring guy who's like got the weird video game.
Oh
dungeon,
yeah.
Where like all of a sudden like even normal enemies were too hard for my party, and I was like, I didn't think I was out of pace with the game, but all of a sudden I just was, and I realized that to keep pace I would have to like grind older stuff or something to like bolster, and I just didn't have the time, you know.
Sure.
So I'm playing this one on easy, just because I learned my lesson, and I'm interested in the story more than the gameplay.
Time.
Yes, I do think that this game is. I think that they explain some things a little better. I think that they not hold your hand, but walk you through things a little more. They explain things. They take the time to explain things. I'm actually surprised. I'm 14 or 15 hours in. I've done the first. How specific are we getting in this conversation?
If you can just say the first dungeon or palace if you want.
The first
Palace,
Okay,
that's
palace.
what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say, can I say palace?
Yeah.
I've finished the first palace, and I've unlocked the thing that unlocks right after that. Not the next palace, but the next like thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Story progression.
Yeah. And there are still elements of the game that they're introducing to me that are like pretty basic stuff that I'm pretty surprised they didn't introduce earlier. This game stresses me out.
Stresses you out.
It stresses me out because I think I just need you to tell me that the stakes aren't as high as I think they are or something, because
Okay, well, I need to understand your frame of mind first.
right, the time period thing is blowing my mind, because it's like I find myself getting frustrated because I'm like, all right, they all want to go into the palace or whatever, but I need to go buy SP items. I learned that you can get them out of vending machines all over the place. Do that. But you know, and I'm like, okay, but I also need to study, and I can only do one of these things per night. But in real life, I could do all of these things in a night. And like anytime there's a day where I get to go to like 3 places and do more than one thing, I'm like, yes, because I feel like I can finally catch up, you know?
Yeah, like a full
And
Sunday.
like Ryuji wants to hang out every day, and for some reason I can't hang out with Anne.
Just the way that you said that. Ryuji wants to hang out every day.
Yeah, it's like I'm like,
give me
dude,
a break, Ryuji.
we've been training 3 days in a row. My
Yeah.
bond isn't even growing. What's happening? And like Anne is at the hospital, and I can't talk to her, and then I tried to talk to her, and I don't have enough guts, and I'm just like, oh my god. And I'm like, I'm not even that interested in you, but I need that bond to grow.
This is so amazing to me because I feel like I'm listening to the high school life of Ian Hink.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much like that. But yeah. But
So
I just need to know that like I'm gonna be able to.
Everything's gonna be okay, Ian.
Yeah, I
Just
need
know
to know that I can like grow all my points up to 5 without having to freak out about it.
there are 2 points that I kind of want to jump off of here. And the first is that I do think Persona 5 does a better job of pulling you in so many directions, more so than 4 and 3 does. And I think that all of the rewards are a lot better. Like the confidant relationships that you build, the things that you get from them
They
can
unlock
be
like
insane.
gameplay mechanics.
Yes, very substantial. This is going to change how I interact
Right.
with people on a day-to-day
Right.
basis. This is going to change how I interact in battle and during dungeon exploration, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so you feel this pressure where these rewards are good. I want to go out and talk with all these people. And you're absolutely right, Ian. The game constantly gets in your face where you have 3 different friends being like, hey, we're going to the palace. We should really go to the palace.
Yeah,
You want to go to the palace?
Hey man, let's
Maybe
hang
we
out.
should go to
Yeah,
the
but then
palace.
someone else is like, hey, I'm at the arcade. You want to chill? I'm like, what?
Yeah, I want to chill at the arcade.
And the other thing that I think makes that stress even worse and is kind of frustrating until you figure it out, there are points where you get into a dungeon where the clock has started, but you have to leave and go do something else out in the world. So that takes a day that you weren't expecting.
Right.
And
The first time that happened, I was surprised.
you have to learn how to couch that in.
And you get home, and you just gotta go to sleep.
Yep.
Can't do anything. You're
Oh,
like, come on, man.
That drives me nuts. I'm like, not nuts in a way that I'm like, screw this game, but I'm like,
Right.
it's 8 p.m.
Yeah,
Like
Morgana.
you can power through and make some damn coffee.
Right.
I need those SP.
It's become a pretty hilarious meme on the internet.
Oh, really?
But here's the solution that I worked out, and I think it'll help you, and maybe it'll help our listeners as well. You have more, even though people are pressuring you from all sides and you have a million things to do, you have more time than you think you do.
Yeah.
When you have 14 days, 21 days,
Yeah.
you could just mess around for 7 to 10 of those a lot of times.
Right.
and be absolutely fine.
I finished the first palace with 9 days to spare, and it was great because
Right.
then I could just like the game was literally just like wait to see what happens, and I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, it feels like you're on vacation.
Yeah, I was like, and then I literally was on vacation
Right.
because Golden Week happened, whatever the hell that is.
And you don't have that extra pressure of should I go to the palace?
Yeah.
But Memento's kind of.
Yeah,
messes
I
with
just
that as well.
unlocked that, and I'm like,
Um,
oh, what?
But here's what I did: is I would get the palaces done as soon as possible,
Yeah.
so I could relieve that stress.
That's what I do. Yeah.
But you also have enough time to prepare for that palace. So if you take
Yeah.
1 or 2 days to get the items that you need, to make the thieves' tools that you need,
Right.
that's fine. You can burn those 1 or 2 days, then just get the palace taken care of, however long
Yeah.
that takes, and then enjoy the rest of your time. And that's a pretty fail-proof system.
Pretty
I think
much
you
what
want
I
us to
did
do.
was palace. If I need a lockpick, I do that, and then I try to go to the clinic, which was brutal because like I went to the clinic and I furthered the story, and then she's like, "Okay, cool," and then the game's like, "She'll sell me medicine now." But then it didn't let me buy medicine that day, and all it was like, I was like, "Let me buy the medicine." Damn it, that's why I came here. So I had to go back the next day and buy medicine. But luckily it didn't advance time. But like, it's too real. It's too stressful. But then it's worth it.
Is it worth it? Because I know that you weren't the biggest fan of the dungeons and the fighting for Persona 4, and you said multiple times, I'm here for this story.
Yeah.
Has your opinion changed with Persona 5?
I enjoy the dungeons. I'm enjoying them for sure.
What is it that differentiates them? What do you like?
I know better how to deal with them, and to me, it's all about. I'm not trying to win the battles. I'm trying to talk. Always.
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 That's really interesting.
100% of the time, I
hold-ups?
will talk. I will hold up and talk. Unless I already have that persona and I'm just trying to get through it, I'll do the all out. But like,
Ian the negotiator.
I know, but like,
Gotta get that cash, dude.
well, because it's more of a puzzle too. You have to figure out what all their weaknesses are. You have to hit them all down. You have to manage your SP. I burn SP like a crazy person because I basically never attack. I just almost never normal attack unless I'm in like a boss or something. But like, yeah, I'm always trying to negotiate, always trying to get more personas, running out of space for personas,
If you...
getting a lot of devil fruit, wherever that is. Do I sell those to the airsoft guy? What do I do with all that garbage? All the like, all the like
devil
dull
fruit-
sword and stuff.
You could sell.
Oh, the
palace-
treasures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So when you
totally.
go
Pearls and
when you
stuff?
go to the weapon shop, there's an option just sell all
Sell.
treasure. You can just
Oh,
do that in
okay,
bulk,
okay.
because
Do
that
that,
is
yeah.
just meant to
Do
get you
that.
money.
That's meant to be okay.
Yep,
I have a
exactly.
lot of money too, but like,
Yeah, you're
Well,
gonna need it.
start
Things are
buying some
expensive.
stuff.
Things are
yeah,
expensive.
I
expensive
haven't
in that
bought
game.
new weapons or anything really for a while, but again, I think
Are
playing
you-
on easy probably messes everything up. But
If you already have a persona, are you still trying to get it, or are you getting money or items? As
if
well?
I already have a persona, I'll get items
Okay.
out of it. I never
Okay.
try to get money because I
see.
have too much.
Okay.
But like,
Wow.
For now.
for now, I'm
hasn't
sure.
really bought
yeah,
much.
I don't buy much. I'm sure that there will be items I'll want later that are like 1,000,000 yen, and I'll be like, oh, yo. But yeah, the one thing I want to talk about story wise that I was talking to both of you actually about
Sure.
was Persona 4. Immediately, you are endeared to the other characters like
Yeah.
Nanako, Dojima. You're like, oh my god, I love these people. I want them to like me. I want to have a good
Right.
relationship with them. Whereas in this one, what's the caretaker's name? Sojiro. You're like, wow, this guy's kind of a jerk. Like, what's going on? And is he a womanizer?
He
Like,
really
what's
is.
happening? Like,
Yeah.
what? But now that he's starting to respect me a little more, I'm like, oh, okay, wait, I'm earning this, and it feels way better. And now I'm actually caring. And like, my friendship with Ryuji is like really growing. Like at first, I was like, okay, he's just that like punk guy from 4, like whatever. But now I'm like, no, he's a really interesting person, and I really like this relationship. Anna's a little like, she's fine, whatever. But like, you really get to know these people and earn it more. And I think for me, that's going to keep the hooks in longer. I think I'm going to
Yeah.
be more interested and more invested in these characters for longer than I was in 4. Because
Yeah.
after a while in 4, it's like, okay, I know these people. Let's get to the end of the story.
I'm really glad that you brought this up, Ian, because I see a lot of people saying it when they're 5 hours in, they're 10 hours in,
Yeah.
and they're like, I'm just not immediately endeared to
Same.
these characters in the same way. But that's a lot of that is the sort of rural urban difference between Persona 4 and Persona 5, where Persona 4 was look at this idyllic small town. Oh my
Right.
gosh, these terrible things are happening. Oh my gosh, these people actually have dark secrets. Like it's not
Right.
all brought on the surface. And so warm up front and then darker a little later. But I think with Persona 4, it kind of followed this formula where you meet somebody, you figure out their secret, you incorporate them into the thing.
Dungeon, move on.
Whereas here, it's things are bad for me immediately.
Yeah.
And it's going to complicate this whole dynamic. And I think it feels a little less formulaic that way in
Well, it's
Persona
way more
5.
complex.
It's way more complex.
It seems way more like this is a very much more oh my god, very much more mature game than 4.
Yes, 4 is the Scooby-Doo version.
Right.
Yeah.
This feels like 4 was it dealt with themes and like adult situations and stuff, but this one is like this is real life. Like this is intense and depressing, and the politicians are falling apart. The government is like untrustworthy. Adults are all garbage. Like everything is intense in this game.
I'm a little frustrated that I can't say specifics, but I also think the characters are baked into the broader narrative a little bit better. The thing causing a problem for this person is tied into the larger story.
Yeah.
The person that's causing problems for everybody.
There are hints of that already,
yeah.
even for me,
And
15 hours in.
I think all of that stuff, the broader narrative and the more personal stories, are interwoven much better than they were, not just in Persona 4, but other past Persona games as
Yeah.
well. Do you think it's handling the themes that it's talking about well?
Generally, yes. I definitely think that there was something I was in that early zone where I'm like, I don't care about any of these people, and like you learn a thing about what stealing the heart could mean, and I was like, whoa, that seems a little too intense. Like this guy's an asshole, but like I don't know if we want to run the risk of that kind of level of punishment, you know.
I mean,
But then they raise the stakes a few days later, and you're like, oh, all right, screw this guy.
yeah, like the characters talk about like that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Like, we
and
don't
the
want to.
characters are saying it the way
Yeah.
you're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No.
And then that from then on, it really brought me in, and then I was like, okay. And I do think it's doing a good job because it's dealing with very intense themes, and like the first bad guy, you know, is pretty deplorable, and the things that he's doing are not good, and they're not easy subjects to talk about, and they're kind of dangerous subjects to try to handle. Right now, the major failing right now is kind of how the game and characters treat Anne. On. Also, I don't like the way that they pronounce the names, but whatever.
Yeah. It's
because they're like wrong.
It's weird because the pronunciation for some of the last names especially sound wrong, but a voice actress, I believe the voice actress for On came out on Twitter and she said, no, this is what we were told by Atlas Japan. They gave us these pronunciations. We were just reading the script and listening to the direction. And so it's frustrating to know what happened here and why it happened. And
Why?
whose
Yeah,
fault it is.
why?
Why exactly? I don't know. And from
Like
their
I was trying to
perspective,
think of like a thematic reason why they would pronounce them this way, and it's like I can't think of one.
And there's also sometimes an inconsistency amongst the pronunciations, which can be a little frustrating.
And then it like really messes with my head because I'm like, is it Tamaki, Takamaki?
Yeah.
Like what? And then I'm like trying to remember the people's names, and I can't because they're saying it wrong, and every time they say it, I'm like, well, that's not how you'd say it.
And it's unfortunate that these little inconsistencies happen because I do think there's a lot of good in that localization.
Yeah. Oh, the voice acting is by and large pretty great.
Yeah, I think so too. And
Morgana is very good.
Yeah, I think they make those characters sound natural in a lot of ways.
But anyway, the way that Anne is treated is kind of weird because she's really over-sexualized in the dungeons. And at first she is not cool with that. Like she's like, oh, why am I dressed like this? Like, stop looking at me, you know? And then like, you know, Ryuji's like, damn though, like,
yeah.
You know? And I'm just like, this is kind of weird and kind of smarmy. And like her battle position where she's just got like her ass out, I'm like, you know?
Sure.
Because that doesn't feel as justified. Like, Kamoshida's palace being all lecherous and stuff makes sense because he's a monster person. Like, it's fine that it's all sexualized in there because it's you're against that. But the game is sexualizing on in a similar way while treating it reprehensibly in this character's position, but it's okay that we're doing it because we're the game.
So one of my biggest problems with On is I feel like a lot of her development is underwritten. They don't spend enough time with it. But I think what they were trying to do is, in the beginning, I think, and now you're
I know.
me too. On is being used sexually against
Right.
her own will, and I think what happens with her is she kind of grows and she kind of takes ownership over that, and she becomes enthusiastic about being a model. It's something that she was just kind of doing before, and now she's taking ownership over it.
Okay.
And I think that's what that
That's kind of
sort
what I
of
was
flamboyant
hoping
sexuality is supposed to mean.
for. Yeah.
But there are times, I think, especially later on, if you go all the way with that social link, where, like I said, it sort of just feels like it happens, and the justification seems a little thrown together. But I think, by and large, that is what's going on.
Well, I haven't had a lot of time to hang out with her one-on-one
Yeah.
because my guts and kindness or whatever wasn't high enough to speak to a woman or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah. So I mean, maybe I'm just missing that half of the narrative.
Sure.
But that was my hope, that it was like her coming more into her own. You know.
She's probably my least favorite of the cast.
So far, I feel that same way. I only have met like, a certain number of characters, but
Brad, unlike Ian, big fan Persona.
Yeah.
Finished
Yeah.
3, finished 4.
I'm a big fan now.
Sorry, not trying to.
I know.
Just saying,
I just want that to be clear.
You've
I
got,
love 5 and 4.
you've got some experience. How are you feeling about the characters? Which ones are you responding to? Which ones are
I
kind of
don't
leaving
want
you
to talk
cold?
about them all yet, though, because
Sure.
I'm like twice as far as you time
I
wise,
think literally
Yeah.
twice.
and I don't know if we should talk about some of them yet.
Sure, it's hard. That's a good thing to bring up. I think you just
That's
probably
something
made
we
a lot
have
of
to
people's
share.
side.
I mean, I
relief,
could talk
yeah.
about stuff that I think 5 has improved big time on
Yeah.
since the other ones.
Please go ahead.
Number 1 is the dungeons in this game. Like, Ben, I don't know how many times you and me talk about Tartarus, and like we just hate it. I hate Tartarus. It's literally garbage. But now, in 4, it also had randomized dungeons, but it wasn't bad as Tartarus. But now the dungeons are actually designed. They have a
Yeah.
design to them. It's not randomizing every time you go through it. So going through the palaces are so much more enjoyable now because they think about it while they're doing it. And it's not necessarily just running through something now. You're sneaking through it. You're
Yeah.
jumping on stuff like that. They're just adding like little tiny layers to make it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Thing like that.
And it fits the theme more of like
Yeah.
infiltration.
Yeah, totally. Like
Because if it changed,
I
that would
love
ruin
that they did that. Yeah. I love like obviously the battle menu. I think it's way more streamlined now from what we were used to. Instead of going through a couple things.
Yep.
It's all just on the face buttons now. I love the guns that they added. I think it's a really cool new thing to add to it because it makes sense in that world too. It doesn't feel like super weird and out of place. The hold up mechanic is like my favorite thing. I love holding up personas, dude.
What is it about the hold up again? Why is it your favorite thing?
It just adds like a newer layer, something else you can do in combat now instead of like
Just constantly.
yeah, instead of like the other ones, instead of just knocking them on their feet and doing an all out attack, they add something more you can do on it. And as you unlock more links, kind of thing, you learn more things through that you can also do with that. That's what this game kind of does.
Oh,
it has
cool.
like systems, but then they slowly add on to them, like even like way further in the game than I thought they would keep adding stuff. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, talking about the negotiations and the extra wrinkles that you're adding on, the guns as well. One of the biggest dangers I think a lot of JRPGs face is they sort of introduce a really good base, but it doesn't change enough throughout the course of the thing. And so
Right.
the rewards that you get become less meaningful. And I think past Persona games are guilty of that as well, because you had shuffle time where it's really easy to just select the right card that you want for the persona. And so getting a new persona just sort of felt like a force of habit rather than something meaningful. And here, adding that little extra layer that's not too convoluted to get that persona to say the right thing makes it feel better. And that's important.
Doesn't that go back further into Shin Megami Tensei roots? Because earlier didn't you have to negotiate with a spirit or whatever to get it to join you, a demon?
So in the core SMT games, SMT 1 through 4, that's always the case. In a lot of other SMT games, you have to negotiate. And in fact, you had to negotiate before Persona 3 as well. And there were guns in Persona 1. And so these aren't totally new elements, but they've been out of the game for so long.
I think
so
that's
it's nice to
cool
bring
that
them
they've
back.
added them back.
Right.
In a Persona game, too.
Yeah, and another thing that I like, just broader story stuff, is Shin Megami Tensei always has sort of big themes that it incorporates in every game. It incorporates it in a different way, but in Persona, it always felt like those links were a little bit weaker. I feel like there's a lot more Shin Megami Tensei and Persona 5 than there was in Persona 3 and Persona 4. And I think that's really cool. And I think they do it subtly. They don't force it in, but they also tell their own story. It doesn't feel like they're just retreading the same ground that they've done before. And I respect that a lot.
Something I totally noticed playing this game, especially going from like 3 to 4, which are PS2 games,
Yeah.
Now this is like a PS3 and PS4 game. Even when there's a normal conversation now, there's different angles and stuff like that. I never like realized how big of a deal that would be for me. Because when the old ones, you just stand there, it's like one still shot.
Right.
For like 5 minutes, just people talking. But now it's like different perspectives and different angles and everything like that, which is just like a nice little touch.
You have the tear in the screen, and you can see the close-ups of their eyes and all of that stuff. Those little touches.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that a lot.
So much.
I have a question actually about cutscenes.
Yeah.
Does the fast forward function skip through them too fast to listen to, or does it just auto advance?
No, so it skips forward too fast, I think, to reasonably follow.
You can't read
but,
it really.
Okay.
And I've heard other people complain about this as well. So if you don't go into the config menu on the title screen and set it to dialogue to auto, you'll have to mesh through.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing,
dialogue.
because I'm like, sometimes I just want it to auto advance.
Go into the settings in the title screen, and you can have it auto advance.
Oh,
and you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah,
as a
jeez
result.
Louise.
Yeah.
I wish that was more obvious.
It's frustrating because other Atlas RPGs, other Shin Megami Tensei games have allowed you to just change
Auto
that.
button,
You
yeah.
just hit triangle or something during dialogue if you want it on or you want it off. And
Right.
so it is a little bit curious that
Puyo
it's...
Puyo Tetris does that.
Right. It's a little curious that it's more cumbersome here. I don't understand why.
Well, and there's the log, so if you miss something that someone
I
says,
love the
you just
log.
go back into the log and you're like, oh, okay, that's what
I
it said.
love the log. And you can even repeat the voice acting if you want
Oh,
to.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Something I liked about some of the fights in this game too, like boss fights especially, are not usually just, they're not always just straightforward, kind of boss fights. There's always like something a little different to them that's really sets them apart kind of thing. Like, I don't want to say.
Part of the story.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say too much either, but like, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so many of the things in this game are justified by the story stuff.
Yes.
It's not just a gameplay mechanic, it's also part of the story. Like, that is so good, and I wish more games did that kind of stuff.
I completely agree with you that more games at large need to do a better job of contextualizing the things that you're doing most often, like fighting.
Right.
But I think JRPGs are especially guilty of it. Where you're going and you're killing these rats, or you're getting into these countless battles when you have something very important to do.
Right.
And here, the way that they contextualize the enemies, your powers within them, what you're doing it, why you're doing it, all of that stuff, how they contextualize the Velvet Room, sneaking around, having to make thief tools to open things, having safe rooms where you can talk to your other thieves about how to progress forward.
And
it's just a bunch of little touches.
They do a really good job in this one of reiterating. I think that Morgana's said it and a few other people have said it a couple of times now, where they're like, hey, increasing your knowledge or guts or proficiency isn't just helpful for school, it'll help us in the palaces too.
Right.
And I'm like, I mean, maybe that seems obvious, but I think it's a really cool thing for them to just say that so that you as a player know, like, these two things aren't separate. They're not mutually exclusive. Doing better in school means you're going to do better in the palace, and you're going to be stronger, and you're going to, I don't know exactly what the exact ramifications of having, like, higher kindness might be. Maybe you negotiate better with certain personas or something, but, like, I just think that's cool that they say that.
I think some of the monster design and like the persona designs are outstanding.
Yes.
Especially coming from the old ones like that. Like, I haven't seen personas that looked ever this good ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ryuji's persona.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Captain Kidd.
Love Captain Kidd. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like they all have like really more unique personas that kind of fit them more.
Sure.
Because I remember seeing some of the older personas and like characters, and I'm like, that's kind of whatever. It's not that cool. But all these look really awesome and unique and kind of tie into the character a little more than the other ones, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting that you feel that way, Brad, because to me, the cast persona designs are kind of just on par with the others, but I really liked the past persona designs as well. So it's interesting that you think they fit the characters.
Well, when I think of like Chie's persona and how it looks comparing to like Ryuji's persona and like how it goes with his personality. So like, it just makes more sense to me that they would have a persona that looks like that.
I wonder if it helps that they also have costume changes. Like the characters look
like
more like their personas.
Exactly.
Yes,
I do think
yeah.
there's a similarity.
I definitely felt bad when I guillotined Arsene to
I was
to
like,
make
I
a
don't
new
wanna do this.
persona? Because I was like, he's like level 4.
How? Oh man, that's
Arsene
something that
is
I didn't
cool
get
as
to,
hell.
to talk about. But how cool is it that the things that you're doing to your personas to fuse them
yeah.
together at the
They
beginning?
look scared.
They look
Some of them-
scared.
Yeah.
They're like, don't do
You're
this.
throwing tarps over them.
Some are like cool with it,
Yeah.
and some are not.
Yeah.
Like
They're like, oh
Arsene
my
was
God.
like, I'll see you later.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just
like
so-
I will live on and like
Yeah,
other stuff. You're
absolutely.
like,
But
damn.
like little guy in the pot who's like a kid or whatever is just like, and I'm like, oh my God, skip animation. Yeah, it's good. It's funny the character design or the creature design in this game is funny because it'd been a while since I'd played 4, and I forgot that the monsters and the personas are kind of personae, I guess, whatever, are kind of like funny. They're kind of funny looking
Right.
and goofy.
Yeah, sure. There's some
Which
goofy ones.
doesn't really like jive with the serious overtones of the game always, which is fun, but it does in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like the tone that these games strike is very interesting because it's very serious, but at the same time still kind of light.
Yeah. I mean, it. Again, you can say this about a lot of the past games, but it's so nice that they're not just things for you to kill. They
Right,
have
right.
personalities. They
Consistent personalities
yes.
too. Like the same guy, the little jack-o'-lantern guy, they're always gonna act the same.
Yeah, I think them talking to you a lot more too is
Oh, I
a
love
smart
it.
move.
I love
you know
it.
how they talk to you a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they did that a little in the other ones, but they do it way more frequent in this one. They feel more like an individual being, I would say, instead of just like some fodder kind of thing like that.
Sure.
Like they beg for their life sometimes.
Yeah, when
you
they
know?
beg, that's great.
Yeah.
Chopper.
Got the police.
And it's actually something that you can use strategically, where it
Right.
would be easier for me to get them to beg for their life than it would be trying to negotiate with them.
Right.
Again, just those
Oh,
little
yeah.
tiny wrinkles. Want to ask you about the music. Quite different than what we saw in Persona 3 and Persona 4. I think
Yeah.
in some really cool ways.
I feel like they always do that, you know?
They do. It's not uncommon that it is a dramatic shift. You're absolutely right about that. But I think the way that they pivot here is really neat. A word that I used, sultry, for a lot of the music. And I think it just does a...
I'm gonna
Boy,
shut the door. Yeah.
that helicopter. That helicopter.
It's like
right above
circling
us.
the house.
Yep, we're going to get arrested. Too much.
They're coming for Huber, dude. Patient zero.
It is Hubert. Oh, I just thought I'd get in a helicopter.
Fly this chopper.
Anyway, what I was trying to say was a roundabout way of asking, how do you feel about the music?
I love it. I think it's fantastic so far.
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite Persona music so far.
Music
Like,
so
out
far.
of 3 and 4 that I've played.
Do you agree with that, Ian?
Yeah, I like it a lot. It doesn't feel that different from 4 to me, but maybe I'm not
Really?
remembering 4. It feels like it's a little funkier, maybe, and
Yeah, a
like,
little more funky, a little more jazzy, I would say,
yeah,
compared
a little
to
more
4.
like sleuthy.
I think there's kind of this
But-
core
4 felt-
SMT base where you get the guitars,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
get
okay.
the aggressive stuff. That's always there. But in Persona 4, I mean, you had pop songs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It
Right.
felt way more pop,
yeah,
which
yeah,
was
that's
appropriate
right,
with like
that's
Risei and everything like
Right.
that. It makes
yeah,
sense.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah. I definitely, there haven't been any songs so far that I didn't like. Whereas in 4, there were 1 or 2 where I'm just like, yeah, this isn't to my taste, but.
And the thing that I'm noticing here, in compared to especially I think Persona 4, is there would be songs I would like in Persona 4 the first few times I heard them.
Right.
But then I heard them 1,000 times and they got on my nerves. And nothing got on my nerves.
Is the battle music the same every single time in this game too?
The battle music is the same during fights, yes. But then
boss
there's special
fights.
boss music, and then there's special dungeon music as well.
Huber's back, and
Huber's
so
back.
he's
Oh, man,
decided
I
we're
wanna
done
bring up
talking
one
about
more
Persona.
thing.
Absolute chaos out there.
Yeah.
There's like a helicopter above the house.
So
Yeah, it-
Huber's confirming that there's a
The
helicopter
shadow
right above
of
the
the
house.
helicopter crossed over the
He
sky.
said that
skyline.
it's absolute
Before we
chaos.
move on real quickly,
Yeah.
since Huber's back, I want to talk about the world actually now. The
Okay.
exploration that they involved in this game, huge scope, dude.
Yeah.
Huge upgrade from 4, which was like a street
Yeah.
and you
Right.
like a
Oh,
shopping
yeah.
center that was just like nothing really kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
Now this is like full on Tokyo kind of thing. I've heard
Yeah.
it's very like accurate in some ways.
Well,
maybe-
even
maybe
like
you know.
one location, like Shibuya, isn't just one location. It's like
Correct.
5.
And that's not all there is to the game. There's
Yeah.
still things that keep coming. Like
Oh,
even
yeah,
where I'm
wow.
at. Where I'm very surprised.
Yeah, you would. This happens in Persona 5 as well, but a lot of the outside places that you would go to in 4, you'd go for a specific reason and then you come back. Whereas
Right.
here, there are more areas that you can walk around
Yep.
and explore. And yeah, you think you've seen all of them, and then they just kind of keep coming. And so, yeah, absolutely. There's more exploration for sure. But It's still pretty contained, and I think some people might view this as a negative, but it's contained in a good way where I feel like I can always get to what I want and what I want to do immediately. Right. And in a game when you're like, today I've got to go study, being able to do that quickly is super important.
Being able to just work real quick, having to go through like the subway every time would be kind of annoying probably after like every day.
The first day when it made me go to school and take the transfers and stuff, I was like, is it going to make me do this every day? Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
I also love little touches like how you could read books now. If you're on a train or something like that. Yeah. Just like cool little... There's like a bunch of more unique ways to level up your skill points, I think.
Do you have to take books with you, though, to have them on the train?
Because I bought a bunch. You just buy them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
you don't have to make a separate decision.
He doesn't read them every day. But if he has like a seat on the train...
Well, because I bought like all the books, and then now they're by the phone in the restaurant, and I was like, oh, wait, is he going to not have them?
No, you'll be fine. If you bought them, you'll be okay.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say about that is that it doesn't feel lazy ever. Like, even the scene there was a scene in a restaurant, and I thought it would just be us sitting, and then I got to walk around a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay. They actually modeled this room, and it's not big, but, they take the time to make these little one-off scenes that are cool.
Yeah, and in past Persona games, when you would go and you would make a decision like, oh, I want to study, or oh, I want to go and work or something like that, you just kind of go and you do it, and it'd be sort of an automatic thing, where here you have to be more engaged. If you're working at the flower shop, you have to pay attention to what the customer is asking for.
The beef shop or whatever, you got to remember their orders.
You got to remember their orders. Yeah. Even going and studying at a certain location, you still have to make a decision about what you're going to get off the menu to buff a secondary stat. It's just a little bit more active more of the time, and that's really good. There was one other thing I wanted to say about the world, but it's slipping my mind. It's slipping my mind. Maybe it'll come back to me. Another game that, Ian, the demand for more people talking about Nier is huge. Yeah. I want you to talk about Nier. People want you to talk about Nier.
I just started it. I got through the demo areas. I got to basically the first... Oh, you haven't played it?
No, I mean, I've played the first and I'm waiting to play. I'm going to go outside, actually.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Because Nier's a really weird game.
I might inadvertently spoil
one person comes back in, another leaves.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I respect it. Nier is not something you would want to ruin, but you're
I'm very
early. I don't think we have to worry about it. Intense spoilers here.
I'm at the first human settlement on the ground. They're all humans, right? Or are they androids too? Like the resistance area, there are some shops and like tent shanties.
Basic premise of Nier: the humans are on the moon. Everything that you're seeing is either a machine or an android.
Oh, okay, so they're all androids too down on Earth. Oh, all right. I thought they might be people. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I like it. The gameplay is like fun, not exactly my favorite. It's a little bullet helly for me.
Okay. But what is it about that bullet hell that you don't like?
I don't know. I've just never super loved. I just don't find it interesting to really, because it's just dodging stuff and then whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
Have you played other Platinum games like Bayonetta and Revengeance and stuff?
I think this is my first Platinum game ever.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Unless they made one of the Devil May Cry's back in the day, but yeah, I think this is my first Platinum game.
Maybe. Okay. So you haven't played Bayonetta 1 or 2? Okay. Do you feel like you're having a difficult time with the combat? Do you feel like you're sort of naturally adjusting to it pretty well?
It's fine. I'm playing on normal and it isn't hard so far.
Yeah.
I mean, you just hold R1 and it shoots constantly, and then you hit square and you sword people.
Sword people, I like that.
Pretty early on, and something that I think that game does really well, that some other Japanese games struggle with, is just how it kind of just throws you into it and makes itself very interesting.
The beginning was very surprising to me.
Yeah, just immediately attention grabbing, but kind of giving you enough to want to know more about the world. Do you feel that way? Are you interested in its premise? Are you interested in its sort of mythos?
Yes, I think. Like 5 people independently tweeted at me and said that it's like a nihilist masterpiece and that I would love it and that I need to play it. That's what's driving me so far, more than the game itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, the very first like piece of dialogue in the beginning, I don't remember specifically what it was, but it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is like pretty in line with. It's like pretty intensely nihilistic, but it was funny. But yeah, I think I'm interested in it, and the controls feel good. I really like it when it's side scrolling view. I like that the camera changes a lot. Sometimes it gets a little wonky, but like I think that's interesting that it changes the gameplay kind of. The game beginning as like a Gradius or like Ikaruga kind of thing is like, oh, whoa, I did not expect that. That's pretty cool.
Ben, I've seen a lot more hype for Nier Automata than I ever saw for Bayonetta 2 in the general populace, I would say.
Sure.
Part of that was Bayonetta 2 is a Wii U exclusive. You gave Bayonetta 2 a 9.8 or something.
Yeah.
Phenomenal game.
Right.
Are the mechanics similar to Bayonetta 2, or like is this a radically different game? Is this like the next evolution of Platinum Games? Is this like the next logical step?
Yeah.
Like how is...
I think this is a really good question. I'm glad you're back, Hubert. No, it's okay. I really do think it's a good question. It is an action game, but it is an action RPG, and that RPG element is very important, whereas Bayonetta is a pure action game. You're not really buffing up your stats. You have health recovery items and things like that and different weapons you can equip, but it's basically just purely your skill, whereas here you're like, oh, I want this special ability, or I have this chipset, basically status buffs that I can give myself. How I arrange that will change how I perform in battle. So that's a big element of it as well.
Do they make big changes?
Yeah, they can. They can make huge changes.
Because I was a little surprised that was in this game. I didn't know that.
Do you like that more or less? Because I love in Bayonetta 2, like you were just saying, that it's like, here are your skills, basically. I know you can swap out, like, kind of your guns and your, like... I always put, like, the blades on my feet in that. I love both.
Yeah.
You know, I do like in Bayonetta, though, that it's like, all right, here's everything, like, get good with this, and it's like learning to master the game itself rather than like punching in numbers and all that. Is that
I don't feel like it's punching in numbers. I mean, you are still playing an action game. There's your dexterity is still a big part of it, but I think the important thing to know, and I think what a lot of people assume when they see Platinum Games, is this isn't Bayonetta with RPG elements.
Okay,
this is an open world action RPG game where the way you fight enemies and the way that you navigate environments is very, very, very different in Bayonetta. Where in Bayonetta, you have this very linear, very focused arenas and corridors and specific obstacles that you're going through. Nier, a lot of times, is open and sprawling. Outside of the intro, which I would say,
I was like, it's open world.
Yeah,
I was just gonna ask that, but I didn't want to look stupid.
In the beginning, it's a little bit more traditional Platinum, but it definitely opens up and becomes its own thing.
Cool.
It is not. It is not just a Platinum game, I think, is the important thing to keep in mind. Oh, yeah. One other thing I want to touch on with Nier is you're saying you're seeing a lot more hype for it. Like, why are people clinging onto this?
I just think I think this is bigger than Nier. I think this is the year that, Japanese games have like come and been at the forefront of quality.
You're gonna like this HOTTAKE
and availability.
Japan's back, baby.
Because you look at hardware sales and you just look at games coming from the east to the west,
right?
And everyone's just ready to go.
But the hype that you're seeing for Nier, the reason for that is Bayonetta is a weird, outlandish, over the top game, and Nier is like that. You were saying, oh, I didn't know I was going to be playing this shmup opening, or I didn't know that it opened up. It surprises you like that, but its story and how it plays with your mind and how smart it is, those ways in which it surprises you. It is not just crazy, it is crazy, but all of that absurdity, a lot of the decisions that it makes, even a lot of its humor, all of that has a deeper purpose.
Will I still get that without having played Nier?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah. That's good.
That's not something you have to
play.
sweat.
Cool. Is there anything similar to the Panther in Bayonetta, that type of movement? Because like turning into the Panther is one of my favorite feelings in action games. I love it.
It's great. So in Nier, you are not a human, you're an android, so you can just naturally run pretty fast.
Yeah.
You can also equip mods to make you faster.
I've seen
you
like
can
the
dash
dash.
all. Yeah, you can
But
dash all over the place.
You can also get bait, and you can bait boars.
I thought you were gonna say bear, dude.
I'm sorry, no
Boars
bears.
are still
Boars are like
still
small
bears.
bears.
There are also moose that you can ride. And you can use this in combat.
Moose is like top 5
to charge into enemies. Oh, and the moose is great. The moose controls even better than the boar. And you're ramming your head into these groups of machines. It's very fun. Yes, you can do that. Bull
Too
riding was
cool.
also in the originally.
Is the because I've heard, I mean I don't know this, I don't think this is a spoiler, but I've heard that you have to like beat it up multiple times.
Yeah,
but, like
so
from a
there's-
certain point, not the whole game.
There's a misconception here that I want to address. The structure of the game, and if you don't want to hear this, please skip ahead. I do not think it's a spoiler. It's not that you have to beat the game 5 times to get it. You play the game from one perspective. Then in the next ending, you play the game from a different perspective. Then the ending after that branches off of the first 2 endings. And then the last 2 endings branch off of that.
Are you talking about Automata or the
The
first
new
game?
one. I'm talking
Yeah.
about
Okay,
the,
wow.
So wait, and all of that is clear to you as you're playing the game.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
like start the game over and name your character Richter, and then you
No.
get okay. So it's like
No.
it's more like Virtue's Last Reward or
Yeah,
something, where it's like part of the game.
It's a good thing that you bring up. I think people are worried about it. I think it's pretty easy to figure out
Okay.
how you progress.
'Cause
through
that's
that.
part
if
of
you
I
want
was-
to get the full story, if you want to get A through
Yeah.
E, I don't think you will struggle. I
Okay.
don't think you need to look up.
Because I was worried
outside
that I was
stuff.
gonna like miss something that I needed to do
No,
to see what's
no,
the actual
it is not
ending.
horribly obscure or anything.
Like grab the gun and Revelations,
Revelations
2.
2,
God,
grab the gun.
yeah, whatever
grab
you
the
do
gun.
Grab the gun.
whatever
Have
you
Moira
do
grab the gun.
after
Moira, that's her name. Right?
after ending A. Don't stop playing. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Credits roll, but they're not rolling.
Ian, this has been a.
We've been talking about my stuff
We've been
forever.
talking about your stuff forever, but I think it's kind of the group stuff. So I think
Yeah,
that,
okay,
that tends
that's
to
good.
happen. Anything else you want to discuss?
Dark Souls DLC is pretty cool.
Okay. I really
What
want to
should
get your
we
guys'
set aside
opinion. Yeah, I just go. You guys can talk about this. Yeah, I haven't played it. And I feel bad that I haven't played it, but I just have not had any time to spend the 8 hours or the 10 hours, whatever.
This
it
is the
Feel your pain.
Yeah.
the games are actually good this year. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
crazy.
I thought
games are actually good.
no,
this
I
year.
mean, like, I don't know. I don't want this to sound like salty, but like, I thought you guys were all kind of crazy last year when you were like, "Oh my god, this year was so good," and I'm like, I cared about like 4 games. Maybe the problem is me, but this year it's like, oh my god,
this year's
there's like
dwarfing last
6
year.
already that are just phenomenal, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what's happening?
But from an outside perspective, I feel like I haven't been in this situation with Souls DLC where I'm just kind of looking at how everybody else is feeling
Because you
without
usually
playing
review
myself.
them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
usually review them. I usually, or at the very least, play them right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I just haven't been able to do that this time. And people have been mixed. People have said that it wasn't that memorable. They didn't like some of the ideas. It was too easy. I'm just getting a lot of kind of wishy-washiness or general negativity.
Reminds
How do
me
you
of
guys
the
feel?
last DLC then. That's what people said about the last one.
Right, and I really liked the
I really
last
liked
DLC,
the last
and
one.
I
Yeah,
thought it did
I
a
think
lot
this
of
is a
cool
very
things.
good DLC.
Okay.
I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I can see people being disappointed because it is the end of an era. It is the end of Dark Souls as we know it theoretically. You know, Miyazaki. Who knows what his
Yeah, but now
involvement will
LCD
be.
Sound System is playing Coachella, so
Who is?
I'm just saying like finales aren't always final, you know.
Oh, okay.
I
That
mean,
was
I don't
good.
know if this will be the end of Dark Souls
Yeah, that
forever,
one's
but
pretty
it certainly will be for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean, like it's
Sorry,
hard,
we're
guys.
sorry.
no. I always complain about that one thing where like, give me a little more something. Like, not a spoiler, but like when you beat it, same shit. It's just over. There's like nothing, you know. So I was like, okay,
That's how Souls games work.
I know, and I don't know why I keep wanting or expecting more, but you know, I was like, all right, here's the finale of it all. Like maybe
Yeah.
we'll get maybe a little nugget of something, like just a little closure type thing.
Huber,
and
the
it's like,
games aren't going to change. You have to.
I know.
But that doesn't happen. You don't get that closure. Is that what you're saying?
I personally did not have closure when I finished it. I didn't know I even finished it.
For me,
I was like, is it over?
it's for me. It's when you beat the DLC. It's not the end of the game. The end of the game still is the original ending.
the end of the
for,
game.
for me,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
end of the
true.
game
Yeah.
still.
That's true.
This just adds a little more something to it. Totally, I see your point. Maybe wanting something a little more.
Yeah.
For me, it was like what I expected, kind of thing like that.
Yeah. And I think that fits because the other games are usually, the DLCs are, they're like the Cowboy Bebop movie. It's like in the middle of the series. It's not at the end. It's not after the ending. They're like, oh, this goes between 24 and 25 or whatever. Yeah.
Do you feel like they were adventurous mechanically, structurally? Is it just more Dark Souls, or is there a twist here?
I think they do a few different tricks here and there.
Yeah.
That helps set it apart a little different like that.
Things like there are places where you won't die from fall damage, which they've done before, but it's like a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
And the angels are kind of interesting.
Yeah, how you approach areas somewhat's a little different. Not something you usually do all the time.
There's one part I was talking about with Brad earlier. There's one part where pretty much the quote unquote correct answer to beating, like getting through an area, is to do it the wrong way, like
What does that
souls
mean?
wise. Like rush through and ignore is like kind of the answer at one point, which is I thought kind of interesting because it's like you start to do it and you're like I don't know how to do this other than just to go for it, and you feel kind of bad because you're like, I'm cheesing through this, I'm like missing a bunch of stuff, and like you run to the items and you get them, and then you just like run through, and you're like, I cheesed that area, but then looking back you're like, I don't think I could have done that any other way, you know.
Did you like that? Did you like
It
feeling
was interesting, yeah.
uncomfortable?
Well,
Okay.
and then you do a thing later that makes it so that you can go back, and you know, I mean, it's hard to talk about it without.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
For me, this DLC, it wraps up the first DLC. These kind of DLCs to me are one story, and this kind of finishes that story of the first DLC.
Okay.
That's exciting. I like that.
So there's a cohesiveness to it. It feels
Correct.
part of a larger
Correct.
whole. Okay.
I really liked the characters they introduced in the first one, so that's exciting to me.
How would you, I guess, collectively then rate the Dark Souls 3 DLC in comparison to Dark Souls 2, 1, Bloodborne?
I think Old Hunters is still
Oh my God,
the best
yeah.
one.
And what do you think it is that separates that makes that the best?
Maria.
Maria.
I thought you said Murray.
yeah,
I'm like,
Murray.
is
Bill
there a
Murray.
character
Murray.
named Murray
Maria.
in
For
Bloodborne?
me-
Bill Murray.
Missing out.
For me, a lot of it's the story
Yeah.
of the Old Hunters that really intrigues me, kind of thing like that.
Uh-huh.
And like, it went areas I didn't expect it to, I would say, more so, and kind of did a few things. This DLC doesn't really like surprise me a whole lot, but
see.
it's still really good.
It felt like a tribute, though.
Yeah,
There's
it
some
absolutely
there's
is.
some shades of Demon Souls. And
It is,
Dark
100%
Souls
there is.
Which is true of Dark Souls 3 as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Dark Souls 3 is the combination of every game that came before it in a lot of cool ways.
Also, the first boss, I don't think that's a spoiler, but the first boss of this DLC is,
Good
for
fight.
whatever reason, one of my favorite fights
Really
in
cool.
the franchise.
I like it. Yeah. I fought him twice.
Oh my
so far.
god. I love
Yeah.
that fight.
I did some
cool.
of the PvP arena too, a little of that.
Ooh,
Pretty
there's a
fun.
PvP arena?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
there's a couple new maps where I did. Pretty fun.
Okay.
Some fun new builds going on there with new weapons. I think there's some interesting weapons in this DLC too, where I'm like, oh, that actually looks really fun. I want to try that kind of thing out.
Cool.
I'm so bad at PvP. Cool new outfits though.
Very
Fashion
cool new
Souls.
outfits.
There's a
thing.
part
Dude,
where
the,
this
like red.
when she comes down the hill and you're just like, who's this? And then I'm like, I need that outfit. And then I went and bought the ring that makes you look human all the time.
Nice.
Oh, I never
Because I am 99 hollow always.
Brad, I feel like with Ian's discussion, with the Persona, with the Zelda, with the Dark Souls, with the Nier, we covered a lot of what you'd been
Yeah.
playing. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
The one I can talk about is Yooka-Laylee.
Oh.
I'm really curious about this, Brad.
Yooka-Laylee.
Game looks so rad.
I was a big fan of Banjo. Growing up, loved those old Rare games, Conquer, even like that kind of thing.
Did you play both Kazooie and Tooie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've played both. Played Conquerors. Played the Rare catalog extensively on the
Gotcha.
N64. This is that. It's exactly what it is, man. Nothing
Okay.
more, nothing less. That's exactly what it is.
Is
you
it on
said
par?
that?
Not only with...
I don't know. I haven't beat it yet,
Okay.
but I like what I'm seeing so far.
Okay.
But I think if there's people who wanted something like way, way more, you'll be a little disappointed, I think. But so far, I'm satisfied with what it is. It's a big platforming area. You're going through an area and you're like doing little things for people. You're collecting a lot of stuff.
Right.
It's Banjo-Kazooie.
When I think about Banjo-Kazooie specifically, one of the things that I really like is a lot of the areas that you're exploring feel both big but not sprawling. They're easy
Yeah.
to get around in. I feel like you're constantly
the thing
getting...
with this game is you go to an area, then you can eventually unlock more of the world.
Okay.
And more of the world, kind of things like that. But there is, I kind of feel like there is too, Ben. Like, I'm not going around like, well, this is just big for big's sake.
Right.
Kind of thing like that. It's big, yeah, but I feel like there's enough there to keep it from feeling just empty.
Okay.
It's got all that same charm. If you love all that kind of stuff,
Right.
you'll feel right at home with it. It's got the goofy voices talking to you going,
Right.
all that kind of stuff.
Which is something that when I originally played Banjo-Kazooie, I really liked. Is it still charming here?
For me, in a weird way, it is. I
Okay.
think most people are like, please stop kind of
Okay.
thing with that. But for me, it's like, it's a novelty kind of thing, you know? I'm cool with it.
How do you feel about it, Hubert? It seems like you had a thought that you want to get
No,
out.
I tuned in to see Damiani stream like 10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And I was on board. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen the scores and I've seen the criticisms, and I don't really care. I look at it, and it just looks so fun to play.
Sure.
I just really want to get my hands on this game when I have some free time, man.
And
It looks so fun.
It's stress-free.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
mellow.
It's mellow. It's something I need to just like chill. I want to chill out on a Sunday afternoon with some Yooka-Laylee.
It's a chill game to play.
this is
And I
something
don't
I
wanna-
want to bring up.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think when we frame things this way, it's like we're trying to invalidate those criticisms or brush them aside.
No.
And I don't think that's what it is. I think it's okay, not as Michael Huber, the game journalist, as Michael
Exactly.
Huber, the human being, the video game
Yes.
fan,
Yes.
to recognize that stuff and still embrace it
Yeah.
regardless. That's
I'm
that's a
gonna-
valid way to approach things.
I'm gonna swim in a 6.
Right.
And it's gonna be a pleasure.
You're not making it more than it is, but you're enjoying it for what it is.
Oh, it's better than
Yeah.
a 6.
Yeah.
It's not Knack. It's better than Knack. Way better.
It's better than that.
It's way better than Knack.
It's definitely gonna scratch that knack itch.
I
That's
will
for
say,
sure.
I was watching some streams, and one of the things that I thought did not look good were all of the mini games at the arcade. I was watching some people play those.
I
I'm like,
played
"These
one,
are-"
and I was like,
Eh.
it's okay.
Okay.
It's something I would like invest in kind of thing. I was like, oh, that was fun. One time.
Okay.
I'm going to move on. Kind of thing like that.
Not a deep time sink.
No, I've only done one. I'm not like super far in this game yet, so my
Yeah.
opinion could totally change by the time I finish it. Maybe I'll be sick of everything. But right now, having a good time.
Good. I haven't played a lot of it outside of GDC. How does it feel? Is it fun getting around this world?
Yeah, it feels like Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay.
You know?
It feels as you would expect
Yeah,
it to.
it felt like what I expected. I was expecting it to run maybe a little better. Like, it runs at 30. I wasn't running into lag or anything like that. But I was looking at the game, I'm like, this can run at 60. I wonder why it's not.
Okay.
But, I mean, they did it on a bunch of platforms. I don't know what the deal is.
It was pretty hilarious. The 10 minutes of Damiani's stream I saw, he was solving puzzles the way you're not supposed to solve puzzles. It's just vintage Damiani is classic. There was like some gust of wind thing, and you're like supposed to go over it and do this, and he's just like, nope, and like
Yeah.
did some
Damiani
weird...
like actively go against
Yeah.
game developers.
Yeah.
You tell me to do this way? No.
Yeah,
No.
But
loved it.
Like we saw him play snipper clips, and it's like,
yeah.
guy's a madman.
what did he
It's
do in
a madman.
snipper clips?
Like refuse to snip,
Yeah.
refuse to snip and clip.
Yeah.
it's in the name, Damiani.
We did that.
was so
We did
good.
that during the
Yeah.
Switch sort of launch celebration stream. If you guys haven't seen
okay.
that,
It was glorious.
I recommend going and checking it out. The whole stream is fun, but the snipper clips, like us collectively losing our mind
Yeah.
at Damiani being stubborn in an entertaining way.
Snipper
Love
clips, by the way, is very good.
I love snipper
I
clips.
love snipper clips.
I like snipper clips too.
It's great to just jump in. It's not really frustrating. I love it.
Yeah,
It's a good game.
yeah. Brad, anything else you want to talk about besides Yooka-Laylee?
I finished Nier 1.
Okay.
I know you guys just talked about Nier,
Yeah.
so I won't talk about it too long. Impressed in that game in ways I did not expect to be, and also lukewarm other aspects.
Yeah, so when the last time we talked about Nier, last Frame Trap, you hadn't seen a lot of the major revelations, and I don't want to ruin those revelations
Right,
here.
I
That's
won't
not what
ruin
I'm
them.
trying to
Seen them all,
dig
though.
into. But one of the things about the original Nier that is so impressive is how much your impression changes of what
Oh
it
my
is
God.
over time.
Ben, never have you will be ashamed of your words and deeds. Have
Yeah.
I ever felt more
Right.
than from Nier.
You just felt so sure that you had figured it out.
Especially like on a certain playthrough, I was like, man,
Yeah.
this sucks, man.
Pulls the rug out from under you.
Also, we got jacked. We got Papa Nier. We should have got Brother Nier here.
Yeah.
Papa Nier sucks, dude.
What don't you like about Papa Nier? We've kind of talked about this before. But
I hate the way he looks, first of all, dude. It's just design and his like, just like how his whole relationship with his daughter is and everything. Just like,
What
know-
the hell is that? What is this?
so
You can get a papa or a brother?
So there's two versions of Nier in Japan. There was the PS3 one, which was
Gestalt.
Gestalt.
Yeah, it was Nier Gestalt. It was
Okay,
on
yeah,
The
so
Xbox
one-
360. and then Nier Replicant.
Maybe
on
you
the
should
PS3.
explain it. You seem to have a better grasp of it.
Oh, and
Yeah,
then the end characters are different. Or
No,
something?
who you play as is
Oh.
different. So in Nier Gestalt, you play as a father, a kind of gruff-looking gentleman whose daughter is very sick, and that's kind of your primary motivation. Is you're trying to help her, to make her better. It's a similar dynamic in Nier Replicant, the PS3 version, but you're her brother instead of her
Looks
father.
different design. I hate
Oh,
the
so
design of this
you're
character.
not the same character as you are in Automata?
No.
Nope.
Totally different characters.
One thing about Nier that impressed me is I found myself caring for characters that were totally bizarre and goofy that I was like surprised. I'm like, why do I care about this kind of going on? Like surprisingly emotional moments.
Yeah.
Out of like nowhere. I didn't expect this from this game, you know? I think that's what Nier is like I didn't expect this.
Yeah. And did that make you more excited to play?
Oh yeah.
Automata?
Big time. Because I like brushed up on how they all kind of connect with like Drakengard and everything like that.
Right.
The most confusing thing I've ever like. You think Kingdom Hearts is confusing? This is literally insane. This is insanity.
It is.
Like,
And the way Nier starts out as a very personal game, and something I know you don't like the father. I know you don't like.
he's
the
just a doofus.
Yeah, but I actually do
Yoda.
think they do a father-daughter relationship
Yeah, I
pretty
get it.
well. And that's not something that games often do well in the way.
You know
that
what the
Nier's
relationship was?
Yeah.
His daughter being sick and him being like, I have to go. Bye.
Yeah, I think there are good small interactions between them.
Sure,
though.
yeah.
I would argue that.
Or like when he like there's the loading screen and it's like her diary.
Yeah.
It's just some of the stuff in there. I was just like, damn, dude, I'm a shitty dad.
Yeah,
Deadbeat dad, man.
yeah, doesn't get to spend a lot of time with her because he's trying to make money, trying to.
Yeah. It's such a weird game,
It
man.
is. But what I wanted to say is it starts out very personal.
Yep.
Where it's just kind of focusing on this relationship between his father and his daughter. But by the end, how it expands
Yeah.
and how it connects to Drakengard, yeah, it's definitely a sort of mind
Yeah, there's some weird gameplay moments in that game that come out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
the whole narration thing, you know, with all the
Yeah.
text. And I was like, well, that was weird.
Yeah, and I don't think all of it is done to the same level of quality. But
Oh,
it's
I'm
exciting to
sure.
play a game that's so adventurous.
Got gripes with it. Kind of it looks like a PS2 game.
Yeah.
Like I've said that a million times.
Yep.
But it probably was, huh? It was probably supposed to be. I feel like it was. And they just kind of like threw it over.
I
Or it
don't
just
know.
looks real bad. I don't know. Combat's not great.
Shoestring budget, Brad.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it is.
Does Automata, does that shake up the format too, like this?
Don't tell me anything.
Oh, all right.
Don't say a word. I don't want to know.
Don't
a
answer
word.
my question.
Okay.
But,
I won't answer your question.
I enjoyed the game though. As
Good.
much as there are problems I had with the game, I still enjoyed it. You know.
Good. And I'm glad you played through it, Brad,
Mm-hmm.
because we're gonna get the perspective of Ian and Damiani, and some of you will have played the original Nier and how that affects your influence, how that affects your opinion of Automata. That'll be interesting to see, and those who haven't played the first game, how they feel about it. I'm excited to see
One
both
question about
sides.
Automata.
Yeah.
Does the music stand with the first Nier in quality?
Oh,
Excellent.
Some people like Nier 1 soundtrack
Cool.
better. I like Automata's better. I think wherever you side, they're both excellent.
Either
You
way,
should
I
listen to
win.
both
It's
sides.
good music, yeah.
It
It's,
just keeps getting better.
that's good. Some of the themes in it are really cool.
I love the soundtrack in Persona 5, but I think by far and away the
Nier.
best soundtrack of the year
Okay.
is Nier, for sure.
Best soundtrack of the Nier.
Game of the year is gonna we're gonna
Game
have to
Game
bring
of the
weapons.
Nier.
Game of the Nier.
Brad, you got anything else for me?
Hmm.
Oh yeah, goatees are gonna be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Actually, nah. I bet we're all just gonna be like Zelda.
Yakuza 0.
Okay, never mind.
I played.
I think I like. Oh, I don't know. I think I like Persona and Nier better than Zelda. Maybe I don't.
I played through Metal Slug 1 again, just on
Yeah.
the Switch. Still holds up. Still great.
Forever.
When they
World's
shadow drop
last.
Bloodborne 2 at E3, then we're all gonna case closed
That's it.
because it's
all
gonna be
over.
perfect.
But yeah.
Cool. Michael Huber,
Yeah.
what have you been playing? You've been a busy man.
Playing nothing of the caliber that has been spoken about for the last 90 minutes. I'll tell you that right now. Reviewed MLB The Show. It's been in the pipeline for a bit now. Jones is just getting around to edit it. One of the better MLB shows for the last many years. The addition of retro mode is one of the main draws, even for people that don't understand or like baseball at all.
That's a draw for me. Is
Yeah.
retro mode.
Yeah, I
It
think,
seems like the only reason I'd ever play.
exactly. It's catering to a whole new audience. And even if you love baseball too, it's catering to fans of baseball as well. It's just
Yeah.
quicker games rather than the investment of a full 9-inning real deal game of baseball.
I have a question for you as a reviewer. Something that I really rely on, and I feel like I've relied more and more on as a reviewer because just these are the types of games that I've been playing, is tying the mechanics into the story, talking about characters, talking about tone. In a sports game, it's not that you don't have emotion, but it's very different. You don't have characters in the same way. You don't have a story in the same way. Is it hard to review a game that doesn't have those elements to dig into? Is it more difficult, less difficult?
It's different. I mean, I obviously have to bring up like what's new this time around.
Right.
And I do have to say, like, if you've never played the show, like, this is what this is. So it's kind of like I'm catering to both. It's like, yo, if you haven't played, this is what this is. This is how it's changed.
Okay.
So it's like kind of explaining what it is and how it's changed. So it's kind of like this balancing act. Because I don't, I remember I did review one show like a couple years ago, maybe like MLB 15. And I was like getting so caught up in the fundamentals of like, yo, balls and strikes. It's like,
Sure.
whoa. Like scale this back. I remember I just like painstakingly had to like cut a bunch and yeah. So I assume you kind of have an understanding of baseball going into this. I think video reviews help in some sense with this. Because I feel like sometimes when I'm writing, it's like, all right, we can be showing this as well, so I don't really have to like show or say. So
you've found ways of streamlining yourself and making it snappier and more interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Are they harder to write for you than something like a Resident Evil 7?
This is gonna sound mean, but no, because I'm not as emotionally invested.
I see.
It's like
so you're not agonizing over it as
exactly.
much.
If I'm reviewing Resident Evil 7, I'm like, holy shit, this is like big moment of my life. I know a lot of people are like looking forward to that review. Like, dude, Huber Resident Evil review, like that's the one I want to read. Like, not to toot my own horn, but like people said, like, yo, I'm waiting for your review. Whereas MLB is an annual thing. I love baseball. I'm invested in baseball, but when you get something every year, it's not as important. It's like, yo, here's the time to check in. So.
With that, a game kind of being very similar but having updates, it seemed like you liked this one a lot.
A lot. This one is really, really, really good.
Okay.
One, because now this is like the third one on PS4, so they've optimized it. Again, I come back to retro mode, huge addition. And just the controls and the physics and the mechanics, there's a lot less opportunity to cheese. In years past, bunting and like getting on and like stealing and taking advantage of all those shenanigans were way easier. Now because of the physics, they used to model the ball being hit off of a wall in all the years past. This is the first year where they've actually got real bat physics. If you can believe that, this is the first time where like
First time?
Yeah,
Just
now it's like it's been off of a bat but off a wall, but now it's like just off the bat and the field, so there's legit over 100,000 ways to hit the ball. They did an interesting side by side where it was the exact same hit in last year's game, and in last year's game it was fair. This year's game it's foul, so it's way more realistic to the way the ball is actually being hit.
Do you feel that you have that degree of control with a controller that you feel as though you're responsible for that difference?
With the hitting, not so much. I mean, I'm a terrible hitter, so it's just like, yo, it's still all about timing. But on the field, like getting those grounders and throwing them, way more control. Again, way less shenanigans, way less like safe calls at first. Like sometimes, in the older ones, you would ground ball would be hit, and in real life, like 99.99% of the time, that is an easy out at first. But sometimes, just because of the way the guy would like pick up the ball and like weird animations, he would be safe at first.
Yeah.
Now, because there's so many more animations and everything is so streamlined, that
That's
that's an out.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
not just a new addition.
No,
that
it
is
is a-
changing the
Exactly.
entire game, how every
Yes.
little thing feels.
Yeah.
That's very dramatic.
Very
yeah.
dramatic.
That kind of stuff, I think, is the things that go underappreciated, I guess, with technology advances.
Yeah.
Because small changes in physics can make things function much more realistically, probably even in ways that we don't realize we're missing until we
Yeah.
have them, and we're like, oh yeah, old games were weird
Totally.
because like
Totally.
people don't walk like this, you know.
Yeah,
like
there would
stuff
just
like
be
that.
like weird, in the older ones, you would come up, pick up the ball, pause, and then like throw it. Now it's
One
run
smooth
over,
motion.
boom, throw, out. Like,
That's great. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Not knowing much about the show or other sports games, but knowing that the show is really highly regarded, has built quite a name for itself. Do you think part of the reason why it's respected is because it makes changes like this that feel so dramatic?
yeah, they get better every year. They get better every year. They go and they add modes they don't have to, like retro mode. I'm going to keep throwing that name out there.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
It is.
Yeah, it's fun.
It absolutely is. And, they didn't have to do that.
Right.
So
And I
fun.
wouldn't have played the show if that mode wasn't in there. It's
Me neither.
Exactly. I know.
introducing new people to this thing.
Yes, that's what I've been saying. It's like, oh, I want to get the allies to play it. And this morning we did, which was awesome. It's like, because I know you guys aren't that into baseball, but it's like, yo, this mode I think could bring them in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, immediately after playing retro mode, I went and I bought season tickets for the Dodgers and got this jersey.
Yeah, you were
No.
talking about baseball.
Talking about baseball. Yeah.
I was like, Ben, I
think
don't
you're
care.
One of the big problems, a big problem though, is still online connectivity.
Yeah.
Some chop, and it is so like baseball is a game of split second timing.
Yeah.
So even the smallest amount of lag can
yeah.
ruin a game.
Like a fighting game. Yeah.
Exactly like a fighting
Net
game.
code.
Exactly. So, it's better than years past, but I've played a couple online games, played, I believe, like 6 or 7 online games, and in 5 or 6 of them, there was, lag.
Is that something? How good are they with updates and responding to that stuff?
So in years past, it has improved over time, and because this is starting out already stronger than the older ones, I feel like it can get ironed out,
Okay.
but there's no way to be 100% sure. Again, because even this much is detrimental. It
Sure.
hurts.
How much of that can the game actually address if it is just like the person you're playing against has worse internet than you or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I played. My
I don't know how
friend-
that technology really
I
functions.
played my friend on stream,
Yeah.
and I could not get a hit off him. He legit like no hit me, and I know
Wi-Fi.
he is on Wi-Fi and he has a terrible internet connection, and he was just destroying me. And I didn't want to call like, oh, lag,
right.
but like
So you'll
the
do it now.
combination of him on
So you'll do it
Wi-Fi
now.
and me streaming, it's like
Who knows?
Dodgy.
yeah. But even when I'm not streaming or anything, I'm playing online. There's some chop.
I think one of the better ways to handle that is how it conveys that information. When you're going up against somebody, can you see how good or bad their internet is, and is that an accurate reading?
I don't think you really see that.
Because just being able
there's
to
not
pick
enough info, yeah.
right, because just being able to pick high quality matches and trusting
Right.
the game that it's giving you accurate information goes just such a long way.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Besides MLB, what do you got?
Did a don't skip for Night in the Woods.
Yeah.
I watched that. It looked interesting.
Awesome.
I really, really want to play this
Dude,
game.
definitely a game that should not slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
Don't skip it.
Don't skip
Don't
it.
skip it.
I want to talk about really quick just how awesome your enthusiasm was for this. Where I was planning out don't skips, and you just come and you're like, I have to talk about this game.
Yeah.
It hit me in a way, and that's exactly what I want don't skips to feel like. I
Yep.
want that passion to be there. I don't want to just be like, oh, we should cover this. I want you
Yeah.
to feel like you're doing something wrong if you're not talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's the Life is Strange of this year.
Wow.
Very similar. It is a character study. It is about so many things. But first and foremost, it is about life. It is about growing up. It is about coming of age. It is about friendship, sexuality, motherhood, crime, just so many things this game touches on that spoke to me. And it's staying with me. You know, I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about those emotions. And it's fun to play. You know, it's like a little adventure. There's not really platforming. There's some minor platforming here. You can like jump up onto buildings and stuff. But, you know, the story resonated with me in such a powerful way that I can't stop thinking about it.
So it sounds like it's talking about valuable things, but, you know, we've had other coming-of-age tales. We've had other sort of stories, especially in other mediums like movies, focus on kids wrestling with life. Mm-hmm. What is it here that makes it effective? What makes that message resonate? How do they present it in an effective way?
So it starts out, the main character, very beginning of the game, she drops out of college for an undisclosed reason. Mm-hmm. Doesn't really say why. And I just think with any good story about life, you can kind of connect with certain things that they talk about. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whatever it may be, you take your perception of life and kind of tie it in with all of this. And it's just a really effective storytelling too. And there's ways to kind of, again, imprint your own life onto it. There are times when you get dialogue options and it's really seamless. It's not like Mass Effect, like X, this. It's just like bubble will pop up, you know, cycle through right or left. Do you want to address it this way or this way? So there are ways for you to get directly involved with the way you perceive life.
Yeah.
And you know, it's through her eyes as well.
And that's a difficult thing to not only present things but make them feel like, oh, I've actually been through this. That's another level of writing that a lot of games don't have. Ian, not to cast you in a certain way, but Night in the Woods seems completely up your alley. It seems like something that you would be interested in. Why haven't you played it yet?
Time. I've just these other games, you know. Yeah. I've it's been on my radar for years. Uh-huh. And I played the little kind of vignette prequel sort of deals that they put out. Like there's one about constellations that I just thought was marvelous. It's just the main characters laying in the grass looking at the stars and telling like old stories they heard about these stars, but the way it was written is just so good. And I'm very much into it, and I like the way it looks, and everything about it looks great to me.
It's in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I've got to decide what platform to purchase it on. Mm-hmm. Steam, I guess.
PS4. I mean,
I've got an idea for an easy update that I want to do, so I'd have to have it on a computer. But
the teases. Yeah. Brett, is this something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I saw it looked charming. Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be cool. I don't play games like that often, so I don't want to dive into it. But
do you think you don't play games like that often because right now there are just so many games that are immediately?
That's why I skip a lot of some games because there's other games I'd rather play first. No disrespect to the other games.
Right.
But Persona 5's out, so
yeah,
I gotta play that.
And then in 5,000 hours when you're done with that, Bloodborne 2 is gonna be out.
Yeah,
it is a hard time I think for a lot of people to branch out right now, and I think that's why it's so good that you did that. Don't skip, is you're not letting it get lost to the sea.
I thought it was an important game.
Yeah.
How long? What's the time sync? How long did it take to finish for you?
It was longer than I expected. Actually, it was like 7-ish.
Oh, okay.
7, 8. I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I was guessing like 8.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like 4, 5.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll do this really quick, don't skip. It turned into like, a couple more days than I had anticipated.
It's not like Bound. I finished that in actually one sitting.
Yeah.
No bathroom breaks even.
Yeah.
I do love those.
It's a couple days. It took me a couple days to get through.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I would love to play it, just get more perspective on games,
Yeah.
Take a step back, look at games a little different than I haven't seen in a little bit. Not that I've never played a game like that, but it's always just fun to, do something different.
Let's say hypothetically we get to August. Would that be something you think would still be in the back of your mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael Huber.
Yeah.
We got Into the Woods. We got some baseball. Do you got anything else for me?
Yeah, there is a show I want to talk about. Lastly, also there is a game I forgot. I know you hate when I do this. I do this every time.
You do it. It doesn't bother me at all.
Every time.
But you also do it every time.
Hearthstone. Are you gonna bring that up, or should we just bring it up now?
No one's ever gonna bring up Hearthstone.
I'm always hesitant to bring up Hearthstone, but I think
new expansion?
I think it's different this time.
Yeah.
I think this expansion is actually good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Because I haven't seen Huber that angry in a long
angry.
time.
He's angry.
This
Okay, I
angers
want
me.
this. Yeah. Go
He
ahead.
was like
Go
scary
ahead,
angry.
Yeah.
He was like
But
yelling.
make sure you contextualize what this is, because
Yeah.
I know what you're going to talk about.
There. So, Hearthstone, I want it to be more than it is. First of all, let's just start
Get
that.
metaphysical. Jump in.
You know,
What isn't it, and what do you want it to?
I want it to be where I'm playing against an opponent rather than the opponent playing their own game.
Okay.
Right.
And what
You
sort of
know?
games are they playing with themselves that are driving you nuts?
They're playing cheese games. They're playing be as slimy and grimy and exploit everything as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Now this expansion.
Counter argument, real quick to that. Sorry,
Yeah.
but I do think this is important.
Yeah.
Having played a fair amount of Magic and having played a little bit of a few other trading card games, that's true in those games as well. Like if you go and you go to a tournament and you play, or if you play online, people are just trying to use the
course.
most broken thing.
The most broken
So
thing.
what is
but
it
the
about
main
Hearthstone?
the main thing I always will come back to with Magic
Yeah,
are instants.
sure.
The instant ability to on the
Counterspell,
other
yeah.
opponent's turn have something up your sleeve,
Yeah.
plan ahead, save something up, and be like, not today, dude. Like, boom, counterspell.
Yeah.
You know,
Bounce
fog
back,
of war,
yeah.
bounce something. You know, and with Magic there are many of those cards, many options to deal with something. And that is not the case with Hearthstone, you know, and that comes into I'm basically playing against a bot, you know, it's them playing their own game. The biggest thing today, Ben, that I didn't even know was a thing, I didn't even know it was possible, was I'm playing my, my blue collar taunt deck here, you know, and
It's a worker's man.
it's a working man's deck. You gotta earn it. You gotta earn your quest cards because a little backstory. This new expansion introduces quest cards. You finish a quest, you get a very powerful reward. So I'm sitting pretty. I'm looking good. I got like 30 health, 30 armor. I'm taunting up. I'm looking good. I'm like one away from finishing my quest.
Yeah.
And Ben says, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. Unlimited combo."
So you're playing a mage.
I'm playing against a mage.
who's also trying to complete their quest.
Yeah.
And the quest is they have to cast spells that didn't start in their deck.
Yeah.
So the coin counts because that didn't.
The
start
coin
in their
counts.
deck.
They can discover spells.
Right.
You know, the one they discover.
The reward for finishing the mage quest, and Magic players will get a kick out of this as well. You get to take an extra turn.
Take an extra turn.
Oh.
But that isn't even the biggest deal about this. Okay.
But it enables something.
It enables something. It enables an unlimited damage combo.
Explain.
So they load their board with your spells cost less to play. So on their turn, they do this thing where it's like, all right, now your spells basically cost 0.
Right.
I'm going to take my extra turn.
Yeah.
I'm going to play this card, which gives me the Archmage Antonidas,
Yeah.
which every time you cast a fireball, you get another one. They
Good
cost
God.
0.
Yeah. So
0, fireball, like
Until you die.
until you die. You could have 1,000 health in this game.
It sounds like they've this and the other thing
And
you're
that-
going to talk about sounds like they've
Well,
broken
and it's like
Hearthstone.
yeah, we need to
Now-
kind of go into it a
Yes,
little bit.
I
Yeah.
know there's a process for setting up that combo.
Right.
But it still comes down to that person playing their own game. And like it comes down to fun. How is that fun to play against?
So there it takes a long time to basically set up the 2-turn thing where on that first turn you're making your spells cost nothing, and then the second turn you're just doing infinite damage.
Oh, so you do it the turn right before? Because I was going to say, isn't it on you to kill all those cards?
No, but
no,
because
they
you
do it
have
and then
2
take their
turns in a
turn.
row, you
Ah.
can't kill the things
Right.
that are
Yeah.
discounting
I
your
thought they were
spells.
just sitting there, and
Yeah.
I was like, why aren't you killing these
Yeah.
cards?
So the answer
Okay,
to
that
that
makes more sense now.
and I'm not saying it's a good answer, but the answer to that is if you're playing a fast deck, which this Taunt Warrior build up this defensive
Right.
wall is a very slow deck.
What a
if you're playing a
surprise.
fast, if you're playing a fast deck, you're putting pressure on them, and it's harder for them to get to that point. That's the argument. But I think what you're saying, and I think is totally valid, is okay, but I want to play this deck. This is the style that I like, and when I run into this class, I just get to a point where I'm just watching them do their plan, do infinite damage, and I feel like I'm just watching myself lose, and there's very little I can do about it because I chose to play a very slow deck.
Yeah, it's just not fun to play against, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it comes down to. It's like, I have no problem losing to certain decks. You know, I'll go against Paladins or something, or, you know, whatever it may be, and they beat me, and I have no problem. But when it's like these cheesy tactics or like these just ridiculous combos, I'm just like, well, that's not fun. And now, like, I feel bad. You know, I legitimately feel bad because that guy's over there doing some unlimited combo, taunting me. Like,
oh, well, that's BM.
Yeah, like,
I have a question though. Is it the responsibility / is it possible for Blizzard to balance for every deck against every other deck? Like, because it's theoretically impossible, right? Like, but more widely known decks like a slower taunt build up armor deck, they know that exists. That's slower. Is it their responsibility to make sure that someone in that playstyle still has fun?
Well, I think another argument that you could maybe throw at it, and again, I'm just trying to present different sides. It's not necessarily what I agree with. Is if you're the person that's being the mage and you're setting up that combo, it's really fun doing infinite damage,
and
it does take a
to
really
set
long
up.
time.
that's not even fun for me.
Yes,
Like,
but the other thing
I'm
is,
not that type of player. Like,
well,
I don't want to cheese.
but you like building, you like being that big warrior and
Not
throwing
even
down all
that,
the.
though.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You like being that big warrior and throwing down all of those taunts and getting a bunch of armor. You like turtling up.
Yeah.
There are other players where playing against that is the most annoying thing.
Oh, that's the worst.
Where it's like, my entire deck is about hitting their face. I can never do that. This is really frustrating. I don't even want to do
hate
this.
the armor thing. I
and
think
so
it's crazy.
I think maybe in a slightly different way, maybe not to the same seriousness, your deck makes other people feel how you feel with Mage. And is that...
It's just a problem with Hearthstone.
Sure.
It's just a straight up problem with Hearthstone.
But
because then you look at this expansion that just came out, and you look at 1 or 2 weeks down the road, and it's going to be the 4 or 5 net decks that get to Legend, and all the creativity is out the window.
And we should say that it's still early. I don't think things have been ironed out. I don't think.
Well, Blizzard's past history of failing to
absolutely.
update their cards in a timely fashion have also led to the game becoming stale.
I would say,
and artificial and net decky.
The last 2 content things that they put out, the
Yeah.
Adventure Karazhan and Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, things got watered down so quick where the power level between the absolute top and everything else was awful. Here's what I will say so far in defense of Ungoro is I think every class has a strong deck that can compete,
which
and
is
do
awesome.
Well.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
The fact that I can play this slow taunt warrior and go into people and dominate.
Yes.
But then it's like I queue into a mage or something, and I'm just like,
right.
I lose.
And you're gonna have that sometimes, but I think I'm queuing into more classes playing more things, and I think there are differences in power levels. I do think some classes are way stronger than others. I think Rogue is really strong right now. I think Warrior is really strong right now. Those 2 are probably above everybody else. But Hunter's really good. I think you can build a really powerful Shaman deck. I think you can build a really powerful Priest deck. And so, while getting into those matchups that just drives you insane feels bad and is a fundamental issue, I do like that if I'm not playing Shaman, I feel bad.
There's also one other really
I'd like that it's not that
frustrating point that I want to bring up then is because I think the purest way to play Hearthstone now and the most fun way to play for a long time has been Arena. You know, there is a level of randomness on what cards you get, but it is people being more creative, creating decks on the fly, not using these pre-made same 4 or 5 net decks.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to pay gold or real money to even play that at this point in Hearthstone's life is ridiculous. They should add another arena that is free to play, but maybe just doesn't offer the same rewards. That would be a solve, because Arena's awesome.
It is,
and I'm always out of gold. It's like I play my couple,
right,
and then I gotta go climb the ladders and.
Well, and especially now, that's even. Spending gold on Arena is even more frustrating because this is the most expansion Hearthstone has ever done. All of these new quests are legendary cards, on top of every class having its own legendary and all of the neutral legendaries. So spending $50 or $100 gets you less than what you would get before, and that's really frustrating. And so having this barrier of entry for Arena, it's a problem. I think it's making casual players want to stay away. But my answer and I don't know if this will appease you or not, because I know you were feeling expansion hype, you were going up the ladder, you were doing really well, and now you're running into this bullshit that's making you frustrated.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't play to win anymore. I play to complete quests.
Yeah.
I don't care about hitting legend. I don't care about rising the ladder. I just get on there, see that they give me an objective. I try to have fun with that objective, and I log out. And just, I'm not trying to excuse the problems in Hearthstone. I think there are a lot of them. I think it's bad that I feel like I have to play this way to have fun.
Yeah.
But just taking it way less seriously has been
Totally.
enjoyable for me.
I take it not seriously. I was getting a little competitive because
Yeah.
I feel like the best time to really get competitive and try
Yeah.
is the first week before everything gets ironed out and locked in on the net decks. But
Right.
yeah, now that we're a week deep, I might,
I have 2 questions for you, Huber.
Mhm.
One, why do you keep playing Hearthstone? And 2,
I took a long
Ian, I really like that.
Ian, haven't played in months. Brand new expansion.
You're back.
Yeah, brand new expansion.
all right. And 2, Gwent?
Gwent, baby. Gwent.
I think to answer, I want to dig into that. Why do you
Gwent.
keep playing Hearthstone thing?
Yeah.
Because the things
me,
that
I
it gets
hard quit a year ago,
Smart
and I
move.
haven't played ever again.
the things that it gets right, or the good ideas that it has, are so good that you want to check them out. These quests, having to really build your deck around them and compromise strengths. Like, you can't, when you're building just a natural deck that doesn't have to worry about a quest, you can cover more bases. But when you're doing a quest deck, it's like, well, the reason I'm building this deck is to do this thing, so I have to play into that. And if I do it, I get huge rewards, but if I don't, I'm playing a lesser deck. Like, all of that stuff is really interesting. But I think kind of what you're talking about, there's always those cards in Hearthstone where you go, why did they make this?
Why did they make it?
Why is the rogue quest
Why is this in the game?
Why is the rogue quest so simple to complete? Why is that
they
being
do that
done
on
turn
three,
2
turn
sometimes?
two.
Turn 3 a lot of times, turn 4 especially. And it's not even that I think Quest Rogue is this insanely broken deck that's going to necessarily be tier 1, but it's just frustrating to play against.
And to talk about, to factor back into what you said too about, they have to set this thing up, there's a process there.
Right.
It is fun when you are doing it.
Yeah.
When you run into Unlimited Combo or Rogue getting their quest done on turn 2, turn 3, like 9 times, you're just over it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
the Rogue did their quest, they got their 5/5 minions 2 or 3 times on me. I was like, that's cool. Happened again. You see them setting it up. You know exactly what they're doing, which is even more frustrating because you can't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Would it be like death to your morals to then play a net deck yourself? Is that the solution?
I mean, I looked at like the taunt deck and I was like, okay, try this out, and then I try to like make my own tweaks from there
By putting a Hogger in
put
it.
a Hogger in there,
Throw
like,
a
have my
Hogger
own
in
little
there.
Huber Flare in there, but
Hogger's a liability, Huber.
and I think again, I played because the expansion just came out, so I obviously was curious and wanted to hop back in, and 2, I was in San Francisco seeing my niece and nephew. All I had was really my phone. Hearthstone, got a couple games.
You didn't bring your Switch?
Got a little committed. Had my Switch, but didn't like take it everywhere with me. Always got my phone on me.
Yeah.
So, we have to end this.
I know.
discussion.
I'm sorry I
we're
opened this up. I'm
no, it's
sorry.
okay. I know we're driving a lot of people insane because they
I know.
absolutely do not want to hear about Hearthstone.
I'm
But
sorry.
it's this feeling of helplessness that I think Hearthstone has a problem with. Like when Shaman was so oppressive, when you didn't have if you were playing a control. When you were playing a control deck and you drew badly, you didn't draw any of your early game, and they play Tunnel Trog, and then they play Totem Golem, and then they play Feral Spirit, and it's like, I feel like I've lost and we've just started this match.
Yeah.
That feeling of helplessness, it kind of returns in a different way with the quest, where it's like, oh, they did this, and I couldn't really stop it, and there's very little counterplay that I can do here. That is a problem, and some of the older classic decks, not to have rose-tinted glasses, but I think about classic Handlock, which is kind of returned here, where you could summon big, powerful minions, or you could summon those Mountain Giants, those Twilight Drakes, but at a cost where you didn't have great ways of restoring your life, where you were very susceptible to burst, where you might have a wall of really big, taunty, meaty guys, but you only have 10 health.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite types of decks, where they're very powerful and they're dangerous.
Risk
they're
reward.
scary to play against, but they have a huge inherent risk. Yeah, absolutely.
This might be an ignorant question, and I understand that it would give them a free pass, but why not just immediately concede when you see a deck like this? Wouldn't that punish them for playing a cheese deck?
Losing on the ladders is rough. I mean, they added the stopgap on rank 15 now, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But, when you lose a star or you're trying to get a win streak, the best way to level up. But yeah, I mean, again, don't take it as seriously. Queue into a mage, just quit.
Yeah, I think if that's driving you that crazy, just rank down. Who cares?
Here's the
Get
thing,
them out
though,
of your
Ian.
way.
That is funny.
Get them out of your way.
Well, most of the time it's annoying when you do beat that deck that just drives you insane.
That's
It's
true.
a much bigger satisfaction
That's
than
true.
just beating anybody else. So that's something.
Clearing a palace.
All right, we gotta. Nope,
Yes.
it's okay.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
About a game.
Yeah.
That so we've been playing Final Fantasy 14 on the side every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Huber finally finished A Realm Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
He finished it yesterday.
Yes.
You finished A Realm Reborn.
Yes.
With a ton of help from Damian.
Yeah.
Not many helped, but Huber played a lot of it and went through a lot of the dungeons.
I went through.
Right, I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
I went through every dungeon myself and did a lot of did a lot of the quests in between all that.
How did you feel about it? How did you
That's
feel
what
about
I want to
the
know.
story?
Like, what are your thoughts on it?
The ending was incredible. It was a good finale for sure.
Did you have fun going through the dungeons and doing the boss fights and with some mechanics?
There was a point a little while ago when I wasn't having that much fun. Anytime I can play a game with Damiani, I'm very excited. That's a rare occurrence.
I just remember that I'm still paying for this game. Whoopsies.
See, it's time to cancel. Anytime I can play a game with Damiani,
Or jump back
that's
in.
just an absolute pleasure. There was a time when it was a little grindy where I was like, I'm not really feeling this. That has changed. The last couple dungeons were some of my favorites.
They start ramping it up and adding new stuff.
Yeah, they start ramping it up. I love the way tanking is in this game. Tanking is extremely fun. I don't do a lot of damage, but holding aggro is just so satisfying.
What makes it more fun than other MMOs? Sorry, Brad. What do you want to say?
Sorry, I think a lot of it for you is the feel of the warrior and the move set. When you swing your axe, you kind of feel it. It feels like a big deal kind of thing. Not just
because I use a two-handed axe, obviously, but in in World of Warcraft, protection spec is shield. So sword and shield or single-handed axe shield. I like being able to use a two-handed axe but still be a tank. I think that's really cool. And I think just the pace of it feels more intense when you're tanking. The biggest thing I realized, when I was first really getting into it, was how slow the cooldown is in between each move. World of Warcraft is move, move, move. This is move, move. A lot longer in between using your moves.
Gotcha.
So it just has bigger impact.
I'm stoked because I think the writing and the story and all of that stuff is just much better in Heaven's Word.
That's what I was saying.
And I'm really excited for you to get there. I think it's pretty emotional.
maybe you should play with us next time, Ben.
Listen.
Persona 5's
Actually, I
over.
want to talk about this, and I'm curious if you guys agree with me, because I know Jones has talked about it. I love Final Fantasy XIV. I had a great time, despite it taking forever, doing the Heavensward review.
I brought up that story when you're getting ready to review Heavensward, but you hadn't played the patches.
And so I had to play everything.
It was 3 days later of playing all day.
Right.
You're like, hey, I just got to Heavensward.
Right. I just, 100 hours later, I can start playing the thing that I'm supposed to be reviewing. Yeah. But Damiani was gone.
Yeah,
he
we had no
wasn't
Damiani.
working for us.
Yeah.
No, I love Final Fantasy XIV, but I think for me, Final Fantasy XIV is just such a huge commitment, and while I enjoy it, and while I want to play with you guys, I want to play with the community. Damiani's covering that. You guys are covering that. I feel like maybe my time could just be better spent for Easy Allies.
Well, you had more important things to do when we were playing. I feel like you were busy. It's not like you weren't doing anything.
No, absolutely. That's what I'm trying to say.
I just wanted you to play this because it's fun.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm trying to find that balance.
It's funny you said that. People have accused me of being all talk, bullying people into playing Persona 5. And I had not anyone, not an ally, just on Twitter,
Bullying people.
I wanted Jones and Boston to play it. They've put time in.
And you haven't.
I haven't because I was reviewing MLB and Night in the Woods. I thought, again, you were talking about Heavensward's covered. Persona is covered by everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, Night in the Woods is not being covered. Like, get that.
I'm sure that's frustrating for people to hear because they're like, well, I want Michael Huber's opinion more than anybody else, but we have to understand, and I think it's hard to communicate because everybody has. I want my own is the most.
I want my opinion.
That is the most Ian Hink answer. We're sitting over here like, I want Michael Huber's. I want mine. Ian's like, I want mine.
Well, I want to play this game and see what I think. You know.
Oh, that's so good.
I was just joking.
Yeah,
I was just teasing.
It's just a lighthearted jab. Anyway, everybody has their favorites, right? Everybody has their favorite allies. The way that some allies express their thoughts resonates with some people more than others. That's fine. That's totally okay. But what's hard to communicate to people is we have to make choices sometimes for coverage because there aren't that many of us, and there are a lot of games. There are only so many hours in the day, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to pat you on the back or Easy Allies on the back, but I do think it's important to communicate to people what's going on. You've been doing nothing but playing games for work and trying to get those things as close to Embargo as you can, on top of doing Hubris Syndrome, on top of guesting on everything. Like it's not like you're sitting there going like, no, I don't want to Persona 5.
You're
Your
never
time
gonna
is
play
full.
Neo.
No, I know. There, like, honestly,
Michael Huber's never going to play Neo.
I see like a few days into the future where I will be off the grid for like 4 or 5 days playing Persona.
You're just gone.
I am very, very close to that point in time.
You're excited to make the world vanish.
I am right there. The show. Really quick plug. Last one.
Okay. Go for it.
Really wanted to talk about.
Oh, I think you were talking about MLB the show.
No,
I was like,
no.
What's it?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
physics.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you did mention this.
Yeah. My the show that I wanted to bring up this time is Into the Badlands.
What is Into the Badlands?
So I think I've brought it up before in the past episode. I'm not sure, but the last 2 episodes have really brought it up in my book of shows now. It's risen.
What season is it in?
This is halfway through season 2 now.
Okay.
Season 1 is only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's all on Netflix.
Beautiful.
I think I'm like 2 away
6
from the end of
episodes.
season 1.
Okay, so it is a show in the post-apocalyptic future, like everything. Yeah. So it's in the future, post-apocalyptic, in the Badlands, but this future, they have outlawed. There's some things that still don't make sense. We're kind of trying to go there. You know, again, there've only been 10 episodes total.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Yeah, we just
Short
had the 4th
seasons.
episode. Gunpowder has been outlawed. So it's all hand-to-hand and sword fighting. And it's kind of gone into this class system where there are barons who rule their section of the Badlands. So it's like the baron...
There are 7, right?
Yeah, there are like 7 barons. They all have like territory within the Badlands. There outside of the Badlands is like the wasteland, like Mad Max style, probably. Like we've seen a little glimpses of it. Not really a spoiler. We've seen a little bit outside of the Badlands, but you have the barons and then the Clippers. They're called Clippers, and it's like they're elite bodyguards who are like straight up. This is a martial arts show, which is what I really want to drive home. The martial arts in this show is absolutely incredible. The choreography, the cinematography, the kills and the blood.
Yeah.
Top-notch fight scenes in this show. Cannot stress enough if you want to see some sick martial arts and sword fighting.
Plus the outfits are cool.
And the outfits are cool, and it has
motorcycles.
And it has some of the best female characters I have ever seen on television. 2 of my like all-time favorite characters are on this show. The Widow. Oh my god. The Widow is just like
She's
the most
nuts.
badass.
Yeah.
And there is the Master, who has been like briefly introduced. There's some like weird fantasy stuff and like crazy power stuff going on that has been like scratched on the surface. So
it's no wonder you like this show because if you were to re-envision the world, and
it would be
there would only be melee combat, and everything would be ruled by barons.
This
Like,
range is so this is like a
The
video
Baron.
game.
yeah.
I need to talk to the
It
Baron.
would be a sick video game.
it sounds like a cool show, though.
Yeah, and season 1 was kind of just my on the one. It was one
Side
of my
show?
on the
Yeah,
side shows
yeah.
that I was like, oh, it's fine, it's cool.
Like, I mean, I watched the first 4
Yeah.
episodes like a year ago.
Yeah.
And haven't finished it.
yeah.
You know?
The
I didn't
end of it's
dislike
really
it.
cool.
I
The
didn't
end's really cool.
dislike it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, catch up for season 2.
I should.
Because season 2 now again has risen the bar. Again, it's not gonna win any crazy awards. This isn't like,
It's a 7.
this isn't Fargo fine art.
Is it
or
a
some-
7? Just
Fargo.
swimming in 7.
No.
Dude, Fargo comes out in like
I know.
2 days.
I know.
Oh my God.
Into the Badlands is a solid 8.0.
Oh.
This is a solid 8. This is a 4-star, 3.5 probably to some people. This is a 4-star show. There's not a lot of sick martial arts on TV.
Yeah.
And so it is serving a
It's filling a void.
exactly. It's
Well, and
filling
it's-
a void that is not really filled on television.
The action is fairly well photographed too, where it
Yes.
feels as though the actors are actually performing these
Yeah.
stunts to a large degree. Like sometimes in the editing you can tell like, okay, this person's not as good at martial arts as the
Yes.
main character. Like it's pretty clear sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do think that the show does a good job with just it's more John Wick than it's more
Totally.
John Wick and less Bourne Identity.
Yes. Phenomenal point.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sold it. There it is.
Yeah.
More John Wick, less Bourne.
That's good.
Brad, before we move on, I got one question for you.
Let me hear it.
So Michael Huber, your best friend, known each other since you were very young. Michael Huber, man of passion, man of many. What I'm trying to get at, man of many passions. Like when he gets into a show, he doesn't just get into it. He loves it. He wants to talk about it. He wants to share it with you. Same with video games. How do you deal with the constant barrage?
Well, it's not just a show. It's literally anything that Huber gets into.
Okay.
It's a barrage.
What do you?
of
So,
hype.
how far does that anything stretch?
I don't know, man. It's like, for me, it's the boy who cried wolf kind of thing.
Okay.
But sometimes Huber is right. Sometimes like things jive with me. Like
What
walking-
percentage
like,
of the
walking,
time?
I don't know. Like I don't usually like if it's TV, especially. I usually don't watch like anything Huber recommends because I just don't watch TV really that much.
But
That's
the
just the-
shows
that's
you've
just
gotten
your
into
thing.
because I've recommended
Correct.
you usually like.
Like Turn, I liked a lot.
Turn.
So how do you filter that? Is it just kind of this seems interesting to what?
I feel like
to my
Brad
personal
has to
preference?
have interest to begin with.
I see.
And then if he doesn't,
Yeah, sometimes when I start something, it's literally on a whim, and if that comes to me or not.
Gotcha.
into the Badlands though.
All right.
Good
We're gonna
stuff.
move on.
Like it sounds cool,
Yeah.
It does sound cool.
The Widow, dude.
I just
The
wish I had
Widow.
more time.
but I gotta watch Steins Gate.
That's what I
instead.
was just gonna say.
Steins Gate.
We've chosen
We
anime.
gotta rewatch. We gotta
Yeah.
rewatch Cowboy Bebop.
I actually think of that all the time. It's like, yeah, it's
I still
either
haven't brought-
anime or movies and TV.
Right, exactly. That's what it
You
ends up
can't
being for
have
me.
all three.
Because everything
Yeah,
else has to
yeah,
be
yeah.
video games.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's
Yep.
not that I'm not interested.
We've made our choice.
Yeah.
I gotta give you those Cowboy Bebop Blu-rays. I keep forgetting.
Yes.
I keep forgetting.
Dude,
I'll
just
do it.
come over to my house and we'll watch them.
I want to
Okay.
watch all of them.
For real.
That's all. Let's make a party out of it. I want to talk
Omar's got them.
about some stuff, some very Ben Moore stuff, but. And I know we were talking about this onslaught of games. People are still trying to get through the big hitters, the Niers, the Personas, the Yakuzas, all that stuff. But there's something.
Tell me
Go
something
ahead.
great about Yakuza 0 to keep
Oh my God.
this is going
Keep
on.
the
I thought he was
Yakuza
gonna
train.
bring
Yep,
something
just
else
one
up.
little thing. Tell me something great, Ben. Tell the viewers, tell the allies.
Tell you something about.
Tell us something about Yakuza 0.
I enjoy going into every single building in that game.
Boom. Karaoke.
Is that what you were looking for?
Perfect.
Okay.
We're just again every episode,
Boom.
Ben.
Huber,
Rest of the year.
Brad, Ian.
Hi.
There's a series that I've talked about before, Legend of Heroes. I've talked about Cold Steel, and Cold Steel is a very cool game. It's got kind of this Persona sort of school setting where you go and you can hang out with people and build relationships, that kind of thing. However, Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, which predates Cold Steel, I think I like even more.
I played that for an hour.
Yeah, Ben, that
Surprised
game's
you.
been on my list forever.
I
think
started
it's
that
been-
game, Ben.
I think it's been on a lot of people's list.
What is it? When is it from? What system is it on?
Okay, so Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky has a complicated history. It originally came out on PC in Japan in 2004. Didn't
okay.
reach the States until 2011, where it came out on the PSP.
Oh wow.
Then it came out. I think it eventually came out on PC in either 2013 or 2014 in North America. I think that's right. It's right around that time. So it was. It took forever to even show up stateside,
Decade.
and then a couple more years to get on PC, which it originally appeared on in Japan. Just to get this out of the way right up front, if you are playing The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, play it on PC.
Okay, I started the PSP one and I was like, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, it's
pretty
still rough, but it's there's a huge visual leap on the PC. That visual leap is worth paying attention to. Everything just looks crisper, sharper, brighter, all that stuff played on PC, in my opinion.
Whenever Ben recommends playing something like an RPG not on a handheld.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
No, I spent time with those versions, and it's obvious to me. Anyway, I don't think it's hard, right? Because I talk a lot about JRPGs, and I think it's easy to get into the mindset, well, this is just another thing. Ben is recommending, this is up his alley. Of course he likes it. Yeah, that's true. This is my thing. This is what I like. But I think Trails in the Sky is better than that.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't feel like you really recommend mediocre RPGs and stuff like that.
This is... Okay. When I was playing Persona 4, and this seems weird to say now, but when I played it in 2008, I thought to myself, why aren't more people talking about this? This is something really good. I felt the same way about Nier, and I'm not trying to be like I was right or on the edge of that stuff, but it was just frustrating.
You liked them before they were cool. That's fine.
No, I know it does sound like that.
It sounds like that you wanted to talk about it, but there wasn't anyone else to talk to about it.
Like Yakuza, we were just like, if we could just get this into people's hands, so many people would like it. That's where I'm coming from.
Well, and then there's that moment of self-doubt too, where it's like, is this just a me thing? Is this just hitting me right? And everyone else hates it? Am I wrong? Am I stupid?
I thought that about Yakuza for a long time.
Whereas it's just a me thing.
I was like, people don't like this criminal underworld long cutscene style of game.
But they do, and they just needed to be exposed. And that's how I feel about Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. It just needs to be exposed because it does everything so well. A lot of times I'll play an RPG, like I play the Tales games and I like the characters and I like the story. I'm there for the combat. That's the thing that draws me. Even Persona 5, where the dungeons are so much better and the combat is so much better, I really am there for the story. Yeah. Everything in Trails of the Sky I feel like is this awesome, even level in a beautiful way.
Is it Trails or Trials?
Trails in the Sky. Sometimes I just say different words than what I actually mean. But
no, I just wasn't sure.
Sure. Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky.
Trails in the Sky.
And it starts with the two main characters, especially Estelle. It's this girl that you play as. And a lot of times I think, you and I have talked about this, Huber, you and I have talked about this, where it's like, man, do they really have to go that way with the sexualization? Do they have to go that way with the tropes? Do they have to play into this stuff all the time? The characters in Trails in the Sky just feel like people. They're not greatly exaggerated. A lot of their qualities, they're not sitting there telling you about them. You just see them interact with other people and you get a sense of them through natural conversation. And the localization is good enough that you can really buy into that. That's so important when you feel like you're playing as people. Trails in the Sky does an excellent job of that. Another thing that it does is it doesn't just focus on the main characters. It's not just, okay, these are the heroes that are important and they're solving the problems. You go into the general store, you talk to that general storekeeper, they have their own life, they have their own story. And if you come back, if you make it a point to revisit that shop between story beats, they'll have something going on that you can check in on. And it's not something you have to do. It's not something essential. It's not like Persona necessarily where it's like, man, I really want these skills that they get. It's just there to give a richer, more meaningful sense of the world. And that's so awesome. And it's amazing how deep they go with that. The other thing is the combat, which I think is just outstanding. So it's grid-based, and your attacks / enemy attacks can move you across the grid. So the attacks that you choose, it's not just thinking about damage. It's not just targeting weakness. It's where is it going to put this enemy on the map? When I get hit, where am I going to go? I can only move so far. And so you thinking about space like that is really interesting. The other thing that's interesting is you get natural bonuses that are random. So if I go on this turn, I'm going to get healed a little bit. But if I'm not careful, if I don't defend myself properly, an enemy can take that bonus away from me by knocking me lower on the turn order. Same thing with enemies. If you kill them, their bonus will go to something else. Maybe it'll go to you. And so figuring out when to attack in order to take advantage of those bonuses is really important.
Where did you rank this on the Game Trailer's top JRPG battle systems, Ben Moore?
Well, I rated Grandia highly, and this is reminiscent of Grandia, so it kind of doesn't really count. But I was just a scrub, and I hadn't played Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky.
So wait, I have a question.
But if you had played it, you would have put it near the top.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to give it more consideration because
Okay,
then I'm
okay.
like considering all JRPGs. But maybe, yeah, maybe, definitely.
Wow.
I have a question about this randomization of like buffs you get kind of
Yeah.
thing like that. So when you kill an enemy, does it go to you or is it random who it goes to?
So you have a turn order, and you think like Grandia, you have pictures
Yeah.
representing that, and you can augment that with spells and that sort of thing. It doesn't if you like, let's say in the turn order an enemy is above you and they have a buff. If you knock them out,
you'll get
it if you're
so
below
it
them.
remains there, so you can control
Right,
it.
you can control
Okay,
it. It's not just like the buff is attached to them. The buff is attached to this spot.
I was concerned because I thought it was going to someone random. I'm like, that sounds not great.
No,
if
but
that
it's
happens.
Oh, it's such a fun thing to mess with.
No, I think that's like an interesting combat design.
Right, because you're not just trying to get through the fight. You're not just trying to manage resources. It's like, can I give myself a little bit of that extra edge? And another thing that I like, fights are hard right away. You have to think about what you're doing, and enemies are smart where they won't make it convenient for you. A bunch of enemies will just gang up on one person because they know that if they kill that person, even if they don't do a lot of damage, they're hurting you more than spacing out their attacks amongst the entire party, that sort of thing. And so if you're not careful, you can really get messed up very quickly. But it's hard without being frustrating because there are a lot of little touches that go a long way in making you feel challenged without you wanting to give up. If you go to a boss battle and it gets long and gets drawn out, when you die, you don't go back into the story. You can just restart that fight. You don't have to load a save or anything like that. That's nice. There are some sections where if you keep failing, they'll make it a little bit easier. They'll remove a couple of elements to ease the burden a little bit without like holding your hand and babying it. And so a lot of that stuff, you can save anywhere. That's really, really nice. All of that stuff. It's such a smart RPG that just, like I said, the way that it succeeds on all those levels is so cool. And I want more people to play it. I hope this discussion, I hope my enthusiasm for it, we're going to do more produced videos on it that are going to be these thoughts, but a little bit more collected, that I hope people check it out. I think like Yakuza, it just needs a chance. So I realize I've just been rambling about Trails in the Sky. I want to involve you guys in the conversation. Ian, you said that you're having a hard enough time keeping up with what you're playing. Same with all of you. You don't have any free time at all because you're
I haven't
doing
played
stuff.
anything. I legit haven't played anything.
Does this even have a chance for you guys? Do you think that all of this?
Man, I'm like, it has a chance with me, but I'm like honestly thinking like, does it have a chance this year?
Yeah.
Can I play it this year? Because I want to play Yakuza. I want to play Kiwami when that comes out too.
Right.
Gotta play Nier right after this, man.
Do you think it's important to prioritize the games of now versus the games of a few years
It's just
ago?
whatever I want to play. When
Sure.
I feel like what I want to play, that's what I'll do. It doesn't matter to me when it comes out. Just whatever I feel like playing.
What about you, Huber?
Persona's next.
Okay. And that's all you can like commit to.
I mean, I have a lot of high priorities, and yeah, I don't see me even getting to the end of the road this year.
Sure.
Persona, Kingdom Hearts 2.8, Gravity Rush 2,
Right.
Neo,
Oh yeah, you haven't played Gravity Rush.
all high on the list.
It's an insane year. And are you
Nier-
kind of in the
Nier
same
as
way?
well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not used to having a backlog, so this is all very strange
new,
for
yeah.
me. This is new and scary for me. I don't know how to handle it. Yeah, if I finish all these games I'm currently playing, I will be surprised with myself and pleased. But I'm not afraid to walk away. I don't want to on these that I'm playing right now, so I don't think adding one right now would be prudent.
So my impassioned argument for Trails has not made any movement amongst the panel, but you said something to me once that has stuck with me for a long time. You were talking about Huber syndrome. You said, I don't care. I'm not trying to get a lot of people to watch it. I'm not trying to please everybody. It's just if one person takes what I say and it matters to them. Yeah. And I was like, that's such a good perspective for this job. You get so many trolls, you get so many people that try to invalidate everything you say, and it's like you can't focus on that. It's just you have to focus on like, no, I did something for this person, it mattered to them. Yep. That's enough for me.
Change one person's life for the better.
Then the problem is, man, you recommend so many good games.
I know.
And I'm still I'm still trying to play the games that you recommend me.
I know.
So do my best here, man.
All right.
Because like I wouldn't have played Nier if it wasn't for you.
Uh-huh.
And like now I gotta play Automata because I loved it.
I feel weirdly guilty about this.
You should.
Okay.
No, just kidding.
Um,
Like, I'm going to play Yakuza eventually because of you and Huber. So it's like, I'm taking these recommendations,
Brad, I want to see you go through that game.
I'm taking them.
Love it.
Just
I know you're gonna
trying
love
to chip away.
it. Another thing that I want to talk about, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Toukiden 2.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, so this is a
Monster
game.
Hunter one?
Yeah,
Kind
no,
of.
yeah, no.
Not the series,
So
but
I
you
ca-
hunt monsters?
I kind of wrote it off because pretty recently I've gotten into Monster Hunter, and I was like, Monster Hunter is just the best. And I because I got so in love with Monster Hunter, I feel like I unintentionally looked down on things that were called Monster Hunter clones,
Oh.
and was like, oh, but if it's like Monster Hunter but not as good, why would I play it? Because I'm still so in love with the main deal. Toukiden 2 isn't really like Monster Hunter very much. There are definitely elements that carry over, but like other good Monster Hunter inspired things or Monster Hunter similar things like God Eater, it succeeds in a bunch of ways that Monster Hunter doesn't. Like Monster Hunter is not fun to play by yourself. It's just
No,
not.
it's not.
It's not. You get
Not for me,
so
at least.
much. Yeah, not for me either. You get so much more satisfaction getting that group together.
I think that's
taking
how
on
you're
those
supposed
big
to play that game.
Toukiden 2, a blast to play by yourself because it does a really good job of establishing its world and its characters. It spends time with them. You get to know them. You are an ancient warrior who has somehow gone forward in time, and you're trying to figure that mystery. You don't have your memories.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's necessarily.
It doesn't have to
top-shelf
break new
stuff.
ground or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, it can still be
But,
really fun.
Yeah, it is really fun, and there's enough there that you're having a good time with it. The combat, unlike the super considered, like when you press a button in Monster Hunter, you're very committed to a swing. This is more, I can push a lot of buttons, I'm attacking very quickly, you're a lot more agile. And your AI teammates are almost too good.
Oh, damn. That's not something
because-
that happens very often.
Yeah, they can not only hold their own, but they are significant threats to the enemy. It's not like you're getting into these big fights and it's just...
And your damage is just like way higher than theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
They are... So there have been some fights where I'm like, oh man, they did more than me there. And it's kind of... I'm not saying that that's good, but it's kind of interesting. to have
It's
that
an
dynamic.
interesting change.
Yeah, because most of the time AI is so bad. But I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was.
Nice.
I feel bad for having written it off. I want to stream it with other people that happen to have it. I think it is a game that is easy to ignore, and I want to, again, do something about it because it shouldn't be written off. I just...
Story of your life, dude.
I know. I don't want these things to be written off. I think Toukiden 2 is really
Cassandra
cool. I don't want people to forget about it. I know there are big things going on. The last thing that I want to talk about before we wrap this up is I want to talk about a musician. That's meant a lot to me for a long time, but I've never talked about on camera, and don't know if I should, but I'm gonna go for it.
Go for it.
There's an artist that many people probably know, maybe you guys know, called Joni Mitchell.
Nope.
She's a legendary singer-songwriter.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Joni Mitchell?
No. I don't know who that is.
Really?
No.
You've never heard of her?
No.
Oh, wow.
Hey, it's okay.
Is she on the
No,
radio or
that's
something?
fine.
Like, I don't
No,
know. I've never heard of
she's-
her.
She's been around forever.
She's very, very, very well respected, but I don't
Britney
think she's
Spears?
like this big
haven't seen
chart-topping.
Britney
She
years.
doesn't have the same name recognition as some other.
Can you name a song?
Yeah, I can name a lot of songs. Case of You. Why am I blanking? I love her so much. California. I'm naming this all from this one album, but yeah, Court and Spark is another album that I really love. But I want to focus on Blue specifically. It's an early album of hers, and I think it's like one of her bigger songs is Yellow Taxi. I'm really bad with song names
Me
where
too.
when I listen to them, I know them immediately and can
Sure,
sing all
yeah.
the lyrics. But when I go, it's like, yeah, the song title is kind of like this. It's a weird weakness that I have.
I've been out of the music loop for, I feel like, a
Sure.
few years, so.
Anyway, outside of not being able to name some of the titles, her album Blue has meant a lot to me because I've been really stressed recently. I've taken on too many things, and trying to balance those things is tough. And so I don't feel like I have a moment
Yes,
a lot of
Ben,
times where I
you're
can
learning.
just sit and relax.
Yes.
And it's an album that has been inspiring to me because it's very deeply sad, but it's one of the most honest albums that I've ever listened to. It is somebody who is just a brilliant writer. I think listening to the songs is obviously the best way to do it, but you could take the lyrics of Blue from Joni Mitchell and you could just read those lyrics, and that would be entertaining in its own right. She inspires me as a writer. Because she never settles for just saying something. It's like she brings it to life with words. And like there are so many emotions, even just reviewing games, that are hard to articulate. And you feel like, I'm mad at the English language. Why can't I describe this thing? Why isn't there this perfect word? And the way that she does it, she makes it feel so natural. And her songs are stories. You listen to, I think it's The Last Time I Saw Richard. It's the last song on Blue. And it is an entire story, a beginning, a middle, and end. And it has like a twist in it. And it's just so amazing to listen to. And it's given me a source of like honesty and like beauty that I've looked at, and I think it's like gotten me through a lot of that stress.
Music's a powerful tool.
It is a powerful tool, and I don't know.
Have you seen The Last Waltz?
No, what is The Last Waltz?
Need to see it.
What is it?
So it's directed by Scorsese. It is a documentary about the band, the group of the band that like played with everyone back in the day.
Bob Dylan mostly. Right?
Bob Dylan, yeah, mainly Bob Dylan, but like everyone. It is about like their farewell concert.
Yeah.
And everyone shows up, including Joni Mitchell. It's really good.
I think she might be in an episode of Ancient Aliens with Action Bronson on Viceland too. Pretty funny, pretty weird. I think that's her. I think that was her.
I enjoy. She has many albums. I greatly enjoy probably 4 or 5 of them, but I think Blue is some of the best music that I've heard in my life, and it's just a huge source of inspiration.
Yeah, totally.
On top of that, another thing that I want to recommend, there's a YouTube channel called Blank on Blank, and it is weirdly it deserves to be getting more views, but it takes these really intelligent, really famous, these artists, these scientists, all of these people that have had a profound impact on life, and it does an interview that they did, but it animates it, and it animates it based on that person's personality. So cool. Bill Murray is kind of bright and wacky and fun. Joni Mitchell is a little bit, softer colors, a little bit more flowery, that kind of thing. And just hearing these brilliant people talk and being like, oh, these people have gone through the same things that I've had, and they've still been able to do amazing things. Listening to Blank on Blank it's cool. There are a lot of great people there. They've done Kurt Cobain, David Bowie, Joni Mitchell, a lot of other people, a lot of directors that I can't remember which ones they've done specifically. A lot of directors, a lot of poets, that sort of thing. And the videos are pretty short. They're usually only 5 or 6 minutes or something like that. So if you need some inspiration, it's a good source.
Neat. Sick.
Yeah.
Shorter than our videos.
Shorter than our videos.
Okay.
We need to make more short videos.
Huber's like passing out.
We do. We need to take a look at it.
You know your shows are long when people need to re-up on their cold medicine during the episode.
And
Nice.
people always mean it in the best way, but they're like, not jokingly, you should do a 12-hour frame trap. Oh, man. Because you kind of want to.
But we
But
would.
then- but
I
then
mean,
we
our
would,
cards literally can't. Like, this can do
Yeah.
11, but our
Maybe,
audio
like,
can only do
what was-
4.
Maybe, like
on
game of
this
the
setting.
year. Game of the year discussion could be like
Oh, God.
that long. Year in review. 12-hour frame trap.
Normally, we do a break at this point. Do you guys need a break? Because
No,
otherwise we're going
let's just
pretty
finish.
long.
Finish the fight.
We're going pretty long, and I
Finish
think we
the
should just
fight
finish the
style.
fight.
We've
Yeah,
been
let's
all
go.
just getting up. It doesn't matter.
All right. It is time for the one, the only, HOTTAKE! It was an upward chop that time.
Yeah.
Like getting a guy behind you.
Yeah. Defense chop.
I want to keep doing HOTTAKE till the day I die. So, Huber, you were talking about how it's kind of this resurgence of all of these great Japanese games and how awesome that feels. That's actually what I want to talk about because something has been driving me a little bit insane. It doesn't come from a bad place, but I think it's interesting to analyze. So I see a lot of articles, especially after Persona 5, kind of lumping together Nier, Persona, Gravity Rush, Yakuza, all these things. And I'm like, this is a Japanese renaissance. That's a phrase that I've heard, where they're like, it's so cool that these Japanese games are reaching this level of quality, and we should be really thankful for that. I'm curious, do you guys kind of agree with that sentiment? Before I dig in and I offer my opinion, do you guys...
All the games on my queue right now are Japanese.
Do you think it feels different than it did with Japanese games like Last Generation or even a couple years ago?
Well, Japanese games were always good, like especially for a long time. Nintendo, Super Nintendo,
Right.
it's for all that stuff. They were good.
PS2.
It wasn't until Last Generation that I felt
Yes.
like we really saw a dip
Yeah.
in quality. But now it's like coming back up, and I feel like it's getting back to the spot it used to be, where Japanese games are in a lot of the spotlight.
I
wonder if it has.
Oh, go
sorry.
for it.
I wonder if it has to do with budgets. I feel like the Last Generation went through like a weird budget crisis where there were like super expensive AAA blockbuster games, and like a lot of the Japanese games couldn't keep up with those budgets. So we saw a lot of games go to handhelds, like 3DS, DS, where you could make a huge game for cheaper. And now you look at Persona 5 and Yakuza 0 to have two examples. Those games are also on PS3. So I wonder if there's some correlation with just being able to make a bigger game for less money by having it on Last Gen 2, because they're not like beautiful games. So they look great. Persona 5 and Yakuza 0 look great.
Right.
But maybe the budget isn't as restrictive.
I think on that sense, a lot of reasons is on PS3 is for the Japanese market exclusively, because PS4 wasn't doing as well in Japan. Like, they didn't see a point into yet, but that was like a lot of those games came out a while ago. Kind of like Persona 5 took forever to come out, and it came out last year for Japan.
Yeah.
We didn't even get the PS3 version here, did we? For Persona 5?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did actually? Wow.
Yeah, we did.
I'm shocked about that.
Yeah. It's a very complicated issue, and there are many factors to it. And I think it's important to talk about all those factors individually. And something that I want to throw at you guys is the change in perspective. Because even Last Generation, if you look at Yakuza 3 and all the content they cut out and the response to that, where it was like, no, don't say that we wouldn't understand that as Americans. We want that. We're Yakuza fans. Give us the whole thing. That sort of mentality where, they wouldn't get this. This isn't appropriate for Western audiences. That has shifted dramatically.
Yeah, where they were trying to appeal to the outside market, and they weren't appealing to their core fans and make their stuff big in the first place.
In the last 6 years, that sort of excuse of, this wouldn't be appropriate has changed, because I think thanks to technology, thanks to the many different avenues, those fans have been able to say, no, we care about this. We're a loud voice. And not only that, those people that do get it have more ways of selling it and communicating to others why it's so good.
It's like, do you remember when Bravely Default came out here and it did well? And Square Enix is like, wow, we can't believe this did well. It's like, well, if you're making games that your fans actually like, then they will buy it.
Right. There's a better understanding overall, and I do think that plays a big part of it. The other thing is when these things come out, a lot of these games in the past will come out years and years and years and years after their original Japanese releases, and so they don't look very good, and there's not a lot of marketing thrown at them. I feel like Yakuza 0 was the best presented Yakuza game in the West. I feel like Nier Automata was presented way better than the original Nier. I think Persona 5, I'm seeing ads for it all the time. It's getting a lot of attention. It's right there on the front of the PlayStation Store. It seems like a big deal. And making things seem like a big deal is all the difference.
Yep.
When we're talking about the games that we don't want to ignore, it's these games. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I totally do.
Do you think they've become a bigger deal to you based on how they're presented?
They've always been a big deal.
There's something
For me, I mean.
and I'm not a social expert, scientist or whatever, and I think that there might be answers to this question, but I don't have the research and I don't keep my finger on the pulse of news generally domestically, let alone abroad. But I do have to wonder if there have been some kind of cultural shifts going on where perhaps America and Japan diverged for a little while, and now for whatever reason we are coming back to having similar interests again, or business interests have grown back together again, because it did seem like for a while that Japan and America just were out of sync in some, especially in video games. And now they're back in step again.
I just
somehow?
think Japan wasn't making good games in a lot of sense of what we wanted, kind of thing. They're trying to do things that didn't make them good in the first place. they're trying too much to get a broader audience instead of focusing on their main thing. And it seems like they're kind of going back to that now, and it's really paying off for them.
So right along those lines, and why the Japanese Renaissance stuff is getting under my skin is, I think that's true if you only look at the biggest stuff. Like a lot of people consider.
All the mainstream stuff. Yeah, totally.
Right. A lot of big, like, I remember there were just games that were so tonally off the mark, like Ninja Gaiden 3. That was a legendary series that tried to appeal to too many people. Yes, and you could see Neo maybe being a very direct response to that. You have Final Fantasy 13 that was widely criticized for trying to appeal to a Western audience. But what's frustrating to me is there were things that were really good that just weren't getting attention. I think Valkyria Chronicles is a great example of that.
Ni no Kuni.
Ni no Kuni.
Got a little attention though, which is good.
Right. And so to me, to why I get frustrated with the narrative of Japan is back, it's like, no, Japanese games are stronger. They've learned lessons. They might be at like a high point, but they didn't necessarily go away. And I do think that does a disservice or is choosing to ignore a lot of the stuff that came before.
I think people are like, Souls games are Japanese. Those games were humongous last gen. That changed video games, you know?
Yeah.
Like people look to that game for inspiration now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to elaborate on what Brad said about them trying to appeal to the West, you look at Resident Evil. You look at like what
Resident Evil 6.
Resident Evil
Oh,
6.
boy.
You look at that example, and it's, you know, like Ian was also saying, just out of sync, out of touch.
Sync, yeah.
Trying to appeal to too many people, and now it's just gone back to we are going to be ourselves. So,
I mean, that's a danger in all forms of media is, you know, trying the lowest common denominator. Like, that's how you get, you know, and I'm not trying to throw shade or whatever, but like that's how you get Transformers.
yeah. Well, Transformers is always the best example.
Well, it's
I enjoy them.
Michael Bay, but you know, it just here's a bunch of stuff, and it doesn't need to be any better than it is.
Yeah.
I think that a way to do it in a more respectful way, respectful is maybe not the right word, but like I think James Cameron or Christopher Nolan find better ways, and I mean Spielberg is the god of this, but like find ways to be a blockbuster, to check all the boxes of what everybody loves while also still having substance. And I think that, with Resident Evil 6 and stuff, that there were missteps into the Michael Bay realm. And then now I have to wonder if it is, I mean, because there's a habit of speaking of Japan as just like Japan, like one thing, like all of Japan, like all the video game companies.
Bands.
Well, like all the video game companies get together and make these decisions together. No.
Yes.
It's possible. It's possible that it's a false corollary. Like this Renaissance is just coincidental timing of 5 or 6 different companies learning similar lessons from past flawed games. Like I think that Resident Evil 6 taught them the lessons that led to Resident Evil 7. I think that Final Fantasy 14 taught them the lessons that led to 15. I think that Dark Souls, I mean, like they've reinvented video games and then just kind of like been right since then. But like Nier Automata, maybe they saw, okay, this is a little obtuse, hard to get into. Let's just open it up for human beings to make it a little more accessible, and let's up the gameplay by getting Platinum involved. And like Zelda just happened to fix a lot of issues that Nintendo was having, and the Switch happens to be a good idea. Like I do have to think that it's possible that it's all just coincidental lessons learned from across the board. Individually.
Yeah, I think it is wrong and ignorant to just exactly as you described, to make it seem like this.
There's a tribunal
that Japan just got together and said, "Let's start making good videos." This is people working really hard, learning from lessons, and it's a bunch of different people coming together at just the same time to do these things.
Sorry.
There's one other thing that I want to say is I don't think it's right to forsake the fact that these games came from another country or anything like that.
Right.
But I do find a danger when it's people are say like, oh, Japan got its act together, or like these are just video games.
Right.
And I think needlessly separating them just to try to put them in this hole so you can more easily understand them is dangerous and wrong. I think it's wrong to do that with anything.
Yeah.
You don't these games can be compared to Western games very, very easily. It's all just kind of one big
It
collective.
varies game to game because I
Right.
mean, like, yeah, there are some games where the cultural differences are very drastic and
Right.
clear. I mean, Persona 5, like, the first time I went to school on a Saturday in that game, I was like, oh, right.
Right.
They go to school on Saturdays, but it's blue? Is it different? Are Saturdays light days? Or like, I'm curious about... No, but I'm curious about Japanese culture
Right.
because that game is about Japanese culture. Dark Souls doesn't feel like a Japanese game to me. It just feels like a good game.
Right.
Neo doesn't feel... Like, Resident Evil 7 doesn't feel Japanese.
I guess maybe a slightly better, more articulate way of saying what I was trying to say is you can't just assume that, as you were saying, Japanese games are one big
Right.
collective.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
that they're all the same, or they all have the same things.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, a Dark Souls is not a Persona 5, which is not a Nier,
Right.
which is not a Yakuza. They all they're not just the same because they came from Japan. They're just focusing on different things. They have different aims, like any game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
and like certain
it
Western
is-
games are very Western intentionally too,
Right.
like Oxenfree or Night in the Woods. I mean, I haven't played it. Or
Right.
like Life is Strange is very much about like the Pacific Northwest or whatever. You know. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say I do think there is a level of coincidence, if you will, that all of these games have come out at the same time. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You know, a Zelda, a Final Fantasy 15. I know that was last year, but that was so close to this.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know, a Yakuza, a Shenmue getting announced, a Resident Evil, like these franchises that have come back in a way, but also come back better than ever.
Yeah, and I don't think it's wrong to say that there is something going on here. There is a parallel being drawn, but I was annoyed last generation when people said Japanese games suck now just because they didn't like Skyward Sword or just because they didn't like the new Final Fantasy. To take one instance or even a few instances and label all games from this
Right,
country suck
right.
now, I think that's wrong.
It's unfair because it's a lot of responsibility on Square Enix and Nintendo if you're representing your entire country.
Right.
Like if you put out a game that's bad, everyone's gonna say, "Oh, Japan sucks now."
Right. Like,
That's kind of intense.
I don't think Halo or Call of
Right.
Duty or Gears of War represent Western games.
It's just like the console games
By
were kind of
themselves.
like were not the big marquee titles. You know, I think of like Shadows of the Damned and like Mad World and Binary Domain. I feel like the big franchises were on handheld.
Right,
Yep.
and that's Huber. You bring up a brilliant point because it's another thing, is how Japan has focused its efforts has changed over time. Where like handhelds were just far and away the biggest thing, but that's changed to mobile phones, and you're seeing that. But you're also seeing Japan, I think, double down on more specialized markets, and that's happening in America as well. I think the reason you're seeing Shenmue come back, the reason you're seeing Yakuza do well is because these companies are changing the entire way that they do business. They're not trying to appeal to as many people as possible or always the biggest markets all the time. They're trying to figure out where there is a market and just more effectively cater to smaller groups of people.
Well, and this is one of the huge things that excites me about the Switch. If time tells that it's a success, you know, which I mean, so far it's sold a lot, but if Japan and America both love it and it does eventually replace the 3DS, the Switch is the most genius marketing and business idea Nintendo's ever made because it hits Japanese audiences because the handheld market is bigger over there, and it hits us in the West because console markets are bigger over here. And it's both, and it's one thing, and then they can strengthen their base and develop for one thing but hit both markets. That's amazing. And like I think that's the kind of thinking that is going to make big change for the better in the industry, because it's just being smart, and it's saying like we can hit all these boxes without being cheesy and crappy and watering things down and making them actiony or whatever.
Yeah.
We can hit these boxes by just thinking outside the box and being smarter.
I think of like Dragon Quest. You know, you look at Dragon Quest 9 coming out on 3DS. Like that was the focus.
Coming out on DS.
DS,
Yeah.
even just to elaborate on that. And now with 11, we're getting it on PS4. Focus to shift
We're also getting it on the Switch,
and Switch and 3DS
and he's getting its own
everywhere.
version.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could talk about how smart it is to do. Anyway,
Do we know how long the 3DS is going to be supported? Have they said that yet?
At least through this year.
Yeah,
Right.
Probably at least a couple years because you know.
When did it come out?
Dragon
Because in
Quest.
12 or earlier than that? When did it come out? I can't remember.
When did
3DS.
3DS 2011 is when the 3DS originally came out. Yeah.
But Nintendo has not. Have they officially said that the Switch is it now?
No.
No, they've in fact they've gone out and said the very much the opposite.
They don't want to
Yeah.
cannibalize those
Yeah.
3DS
Right.
sales.
I'm still surprised that we're getting a new, like a remake of a Fire Emblem game that's coming out next month on 3DS.
Oh,
Right,
man, Dragon Quest. It's
And
so
Dragon Quest in
crazy.
July, yeah.
Nuts.
One other thing that I want to bring up that I think is important is how it's been amazing to me how valuable people's voices are and how much like collected enthusiasm when intelligently presented can make a difference. People are listening. Like Shenmue is happening because people wouldn't stop talking about Shenmue. And they let it be known that there are still people that care about this series. And that's what I encourage people to do. I think it's just much more productive. I think you're going to be happier. I think the world is going to be happier and get more things rather than say, this sucks. Why isn't this happening? What happened to this? To use that energy to try to communicate to people, to try to reach
wanting
out.
to share the thing
And
you
wanting to
love
share
rather
out.
than be protective of
Yeah.
it and be like, I don't want anyone playing the game I love.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and with the Kickstarter and everything, that model is back and viable now, where a vocal smaller group of people all saying, make this and I would pay for it. And if that number gets high enough to where like the budget is here and the number of people saying I would pay for it is at least here, it can happen.
Right.
You know, and like people know that now. Companies know that.
People are just voting with their wallet now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Making, like, that's why Yakuza's doing good, because people are buying it now, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And just to keep that Yakuza train rolling, we've said it before, let's say it again. That Kiwami coming out in August at $30.
$30,
Woo!
dude. I saw that and I was like, dude, nice
I'm probably
pickup.
just going to buy 2 copies out of respect.
Just
That's what you should do.
Yeah.
putting that crown on and
Give them
sitting
the
down
60.
That's what you should do.
is what they're doing.
They deserve the
That's the
price.
remake of one.
That's like a
Yeah.
thank you, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a thank you $30.
Yeah.
yeah.
This is for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And a
Thank
smart move.
I'll buy digital and physical.
Yeah.
There we
yeah,
go.
yeah. Like how Zelda sold more copies than the Switch. Like the Switch version or
That's
whatever.
crazy.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
People just buy it for when they finally get it.
Or like to keep the collector's edition.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when
Pretty sure that's true.
the
anyway.
PS3 360 generation was starting, and I just felt this displacement where I was like, a lot of the things that I used to look forward to, like a lot of JRPGs I was playing, were disappointing, and I feel like I did see that very westernized push, that very dumbed down push. I felt like video games are going away from what I like,
Love, yeah.
and that was around the time that mobile games were starting to blow up, and I thought to myself, like, what I care about the most is going away, and I remember being pretty young and pretty worried about it. And right now, with the games that are out and the games that are coming out, I feel like it's turned so hard away from that. And I feel like we are living in a golden classic era.
Ben, it's like we're
of just-
drowning in video games we love, and as we're drowning and going down, we're just going, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Suffocating.
Yeah.
And happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, it's time to wrap up the show. Time for emails.
Woof.
Sometimes I do a frame trap and I know kind of exactly how it feels. This one has been intense. This one has been emotional.
Yeah.
It's
Two
good.
walkouts.
Two
Two
walkouts.
Two walkouts.
Two walk.
Our first email comes in from Workforce Gaming.
I just love that the people on the podcast
Yeah, I'm
don't
gonna
want
walk it
spoilers, so they leave the podcast.
Yeah.
Walked it
Oh
out.
God, who are we?
I thought it was weird, and then I thought about how much I loved those things that you guys walked out, and I was like, I wouldn't want to.
Somehow I'm still
Yeah.
at a point where everything is I know zero about Persona 5.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
feels really
I don't know anything
It's
about
the
Nier.
fifth
It's like, would you
Persona
want me to
game.
know anything about it?
No,
Of course you
I don't
don't.
want you to know anything
Yeah.
because that'll make for a better discussion.
exactly.
That'll make for better entertainment for all of you. Our first email comes in from Workforce Gaming. It's stripping away the skin of characterization in the name of strategy is the subject of the email. Hello to Ben, whoever else happens to be sitting there today. When playing games that have RPG aspects largely based on numbers, how do you walk the mental tightrope of, I'm following these characters in this story and I need my numbers to be higher than the computer's numbers? I have a really hard time getting into many turn-based video games because I feel like video game turn-based battles have a habit of changing characters into board game pieces, cataclysmic events into turns, and character growth into spreadsheets. It peels away the plot and characters and exposes the number and game beneath. I don't think this is inherently a turn-based issue. I play a bit of D&D, and you can still give huge significance and story ramifications during every turn, but this is generally lost in video games. So how do you stay invested in a video game story and characters when the gameplay keeps reminding you that these are more spreadsheets than people?
I mean, it goes back to the thing we were saying. This is not a spoiler, don't freak out. But the thing we were saying about Persona 5, where gameplay mechanics that actually make sense in the story and the world, that's important. And I think that more games need to do that because I totally hear what this person is saying. And sometimes it is just like there are some RPGs, I can't think of examples right now, but like there's some RPGs where fighting at all feels incongruous, where it's like all of a sudden we're in this weird battle. These people wouldn't be doing this. Like, yeah.
I go back to Dragon Quest VIII, and the reason it is my favorite JRPG, a big thing is one because I care about each character. And I don't see them as numbers. I see them as fully fleshed out characters in this world. I think one big part of that is not changing party members. I like having just one core team. Anytime I have to swap people in and out and put them on a bench, it just feels a lot more artificial. It's like, okay, well, we're traveling as a party, but they're just gonna like stand back there and
I always feel like
watch.
sad and guilty.
Like that you bring this up.
I feel guilty that I'm like, oh, but I'm ignoring my other friends. Like, I feel bad.
And your party's getting stronger, and they're not getting it. It's just
it has story ramifications too because if you're just leaving them off the side, they're not interacting during certain situations or to events or anything like that. And it's just like you're just cutting them out.
Yeah.
And some games where they don't get XP or whatever. They don't get experience, and then you literally just cannot use them anymore later in the game.
So that's the biggest thing for me.
The sense of like a turn-based, the reason I think turn-based exists is because it was supposed to mimic like D&D, like a lot of those RPGs. It was just a way that people liked doing battles. Like it's a sense of like strategy going through it. It's kind of just like a preference for me. Like I don't really think about like it disconnecting me from the world or anything. Like it doesn't seem normal to me, kind of thing. You know? Maybe it's just because I'm so used to it.
I think there are good ways and bad ways of doing it. If you have a bunch of characters that feel interchangeable and can do the same things and you can easily swap things between them, then it does just feel like numbers. But I love that the best RPGs make a character be like, oh, only he can do this ability or only she can do this ability.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, it doesn't matter if it's numbers flashing on screen. If you make them unique or you make them play different, this is actually something that Xenoblade Chronicles does extremely well, where every character, despite having all these skills that they can pick, their entire gameplay is just completely different. Only this character can play in this way, and it makes them feel entirely unique, even though what they're essentially doing is just making numbers go higher or lower. Yeah, so I think there's just good and bad ways of doing it.
Dragon Quest 11, it looked like there were more than 4 people.
There is
in the party, right?
There is.
You're swapping in and out this time. There's like 6 people.
Time to choose, Michael.
Time to choose.
Time to bench someone.
See, I'm already feeling guilty.
Yeah, it'd be interesting in an RPG where you make that choice, and then instead of just chilling out, that other character leaves. They're gone from the game.
That's what I like about a lot of the Infinity Engine games, like Baldur's Gate, where they would, and other RPGs have done this as well, but it's just the one that immediately jumps to mind, where you will make a decision that they don't like. They're not just passive participants. They'll be like, no, this contradicts my worldview. Like, I'm out. You've pissed me off enough that I'm just gone.
Oh, yeah.
I want more games to have that.
Do the Divinity games do that?
Divinity definitely makes you have decisions where your party members will be like, no, I don't.
Like,
I don't agree.
I don't like that.
Pillars of Eternity does that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our second email comes in from Davis. He says, salutations, men and friends. What are some games that you didn't like initially but ended up loving because you tried looking at it from a different perspective? Or have any of you ever wanted to like a game but couldn't in spite of its glowing praise?
I wanted to like The Last Guardian.
Couldn't do it.
Same.
Didn't like it.
Same.
How did that make you feel? It make you feel like an
So wanted to
outsider?
like that.
I feel like an outcast.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Social
Okay.
pariah.
I
Social
don't think you're
pariah.
an
Outcast in that sense.
It makes you feel
I
crazy.
feel like I'm wrong.
Right.
I feel like I'm wrong by not liking it.
Same. Same.
When it's something that is that praised,
Right.
especially by my closest colleagues and friends.
When
you
I was
know,
playing-
when it's our game of the year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm just not enjoying it. It's like, what am I doing?
When I was playing Last Guardian and not enjoying any second of it, and having loved Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, like Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games of all time, and like, I was like, has time ruined me? Am I like a vile monster now? Like, these are the thoughts going through my head. I was like, am I this depraved maniac now who can't find enjoyment in this game? Like, am I a monster? Those are the thoughts going through my head while playing Last Guardian.
I got a game that I just can't connect with that everyone else does. Half-Life 2.
Did you come in at it way later?
A couple years after.
Yeah, because I could definitely see
I think I played it like 2 years after it came out.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
What
I played.
what didn't you like?
I don't know. Like, it just was fine. It like didn't blow me away or anything like that. I don't know. I just didn't really care when I like beat it. I was like, all right.
This is like a Citizen
That's
Kane
it.
thing where it's like, if you saw Citizen Kane at the time, it would blow your mind because no one's ever done that with a camera before. Now, Citizen Kane, you
maybe.
could say is boring movie because every single movie after it did what it did and mimicked it. You know, so I could definitely see a few years after Half-Life 2 comes out, going back to Half-Life 2 and being like, this is kind of clunky and not that fun because you've seen the iterations that do that better since. I could definitely see that happening.
It's crazy to me, and I respect it. And I actually didn't know that you felt this way. That you felt like you were wrong for not liking these things, specifically with like the Last Guardian, because all the reasons you gave, I was like, I can see how somebody would feel that way.
Yeah, but
it just didn't hit me the way that it hit you. But I could. The way that you articulated it, the way that you expressed it, I was like, totally, I could see that happening.
But usually those things like, oh, the controls are a little weird, or the puzzles weren't that great, or stuff like that, I can usually forgive in like 9.8 out of 10 games.
Yeah.
So it was weird that it's weird that I couldn't overlook the problems I was having and still enjoy myself, which is what I like doing.
I think there are fewer distractions in Last Guardian. I mean, it's a pretty sparse game where you're just dealing with the controls all the time, constantly. And so if they do annoy you, it might be more aggravating than a game that's spicing that up with different things or cutscenes all the time and all that stuff. So it's just.
Did you play on Pro or regular?
Pro.
Oh, okay. Well, there goes that idea.
Yeah.
Because I played it on regular, and by God.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it sucks when you want to enjoy a game,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't connect with you for any like which reason why.
Right.
It's like because like Half-Life is such a franchise that's so important to people, you know. Like people are going nuts for Half-Life, and I'm just kind of like, I don't get it, man. This sucks.
Do you feel wrong, like Hubert
No,
felt wrong?
I don't feel wrong.
Uh-huh.
It's just it'd be nice to be like excited. Like I always want to love more stuff.
You want to be part of it. You want.
Yeah,
to be
it's
part
fun.
of
You know,
that.
it's fun being excited. It's
Right.
cool liking more stuff. You know.
Hey man, you like The Last of Us.
I was
I
just
do
about
like
to
The
say.
Last of Us. Yeah.
I was just about to say I don't feel wrong about not liking Last of Us, but I do know that's a me thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
we
like-
didn't answer the other half of this. Sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just
that-
saying Half-Life 2 is just totally a me
Games
thing.
that you didn't like at first, but then liked later.
Yeah.
I have two quick examples. One of them
Please.
is the demo for Indivisible, that Kickstarter
I love that
Indiegogo.
game.
Yeah,
love
where
that.
I was like, at first I was like, what is this combat system? Oh my God. And then literally 5 minutes later, I was like, oh, this is genius. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is Dark Souls. I mean, I've said this before, but like at game trailers, everyone was playing it. And I was like, this looks not great graphically. The controls seem really weird, and you all keep dying all the time. What is happening? And then I picked up the controller for 45 seconds. And I was like, oh, this is the best game ever made.
Dude, I wish I had like a video
The
of
first
that
time you
moment.
played Dark
Of
Souls.
Well,
that
no,
moment of
it
Ian
was-
like, what the hell? You guys are dying. Like,
Yeah.
why is this fun?
Well, it was funny because it was a couple of days apart, because I was like watching you guys play it for a really long time, kind of like over my shoulder while I was cutting, because they played games outside my edit bay all the time, at game trailers, and it was like a weird moment in a movie where like everyone was gone but me. I was in there all alone. Someone had left the controller up, and the game was running. and there was a beam of light coming through the rafters and hitting just the controller, and I swear I heard like angels off in the and I approached the controller and I lifted it up, and then I just walked around and swung the sword, and it just felt so right, and I was like, I was wrong. I get it now. This is the best.
I was blind, but now
I was
can
blind,
see.
but now I see.
I got a fun one for you, man.
Hosanna.
Hit me.
Fallout 4.
Ooh.
I despise Fallout 3 in New Vegas. It is
Every time you say
I
it
know,
hurts.
and I'm sure. And every time I say it, I know I'm hurting you. I know I'm not you and you watching.
I can just New Vegas to me
I know.
does so many of the things that you love about video games.
Yeah,
I
New
need-
Vegas was better than 3.
I need to go back to it. I played it
Yeah.
on console. I don't know what I was doing because I played Fallout 3 on PC, and I was like okay with it. Finished it, whatever. I was like, I didn't really like it. Then I GameFly'd because I was in college. I didn't have money at the time, so I was like, okay, I'll GameFly New Vegas.
Okay.
Played it, and it was just a buggy nightmare, and I just got like halfway through and put it aside. That was that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not
Play it on PC.
playing on PC. So
Put in the nude mod.
The Last Guardian, the way that you've explained, I'm like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
how you walked away from that experience. I can even. There are some things that really annoy me in Fallout 3, but Fallout New Vegas,
I
I can't
I feel like if
rest
I went
knowing that there's something in that game for you that you are just going to attach to.
because there's a trend in my life that when I usually hate something a lot, I end up loving it.
Lord of the Rings.
Like Lord of the Rings, I hate Lord of the Rings, and now it's like one of my favorite
hate Lord
franchises
of
of all time.
I was gonna say you love it. Now.
Yeah, so just hated it. Just it's happened a lot throughout my life where I'm like, dude, I don't like that. Like that's stupid.
I just think
whatever.
maybe we've got enough distance now from New Vegas where we can approach it
I agree.
with a fresh perspective.
because then I played 4 going in like I don't really want to do this, but there's nothing else to really play. I think I had to capture some footage. I think you were on like a business thing, and I had to get some capture for 4. And I was like, oh, this actually feels better than the other ones. And then I did a couple quests. I was like, still not feeling it. This world, like I don't really like it. But then like a couple days later, played it, finished the whole game, and was like, yeah, I enjoyed it for the most part. But I feel like as time has gone on, I like it even more. I was like, I really enjoyed my time with Fallout 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just realized I never finished it and didn't even realize I stopped playing it.
Yeah, bailed.
Yeah, I just
Fallout 4
realized I
is-
was like, oh, I bailed on that, I guess.
A weird game to me because it is one of 2 games that if I could go back, I would give a slightly different score to.
Higher or lower?
Slightly lower. I give it a 9. I think it's like a mid to high 8, where I still really like it. But in retrospect, there are pretty substantial problems that can't be ignored. Alien Isolation, I would give actually a little bit of a higher score. So those are the 2 games that I always kick myself over. I'm like, if I could go
What
back
did
and
you
redo
give
those, I would.
Isolation?
7.4. I think it deserves a higher score.
7.4.
I really
That's
wish-
why I was so pissed.
Yeah.
I really wish I liked
You
that
were
game
rightfully
more.
mad. What's that?
I wish I liked that game more. Maybe I gotta give it another swing. I don't know.
I got a game
What's
that
that?
I played I did not care for, and I came back later and
Yeah.
liked it more. That game was Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, coming off Final Fantasy VII, one of my favorite games, if not of all time, the day Final Fantasy VIII came out, got it, played it, couldn't connect with any of the characters, like Squalls, like whatever, I didn't like the magic system at all. I
It's
really
bad.
hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like how summons worked in it. I didn't like the world as much, and I was like, yeah, I'm not into this. Come back like years later, and I started to appreciate more of like the obtuse things I would say about it, and just kind of like roll with what the game offers, and found more appreciation for it. Like, it's still not my favorite Final Fantasy at all, but it was better than I remember.
That's really awesome to hear because I think Final Fantasy VIII gets a lot of hate, and there are certainly some bad things in it, but there are also so
some
many
really
good
cool things
I
in that
like
game.
it. Yeah, I
yeah,
like it.
it's people getting focused on the really, really bad and ignoring the good, and there's a lot of
and
that.
it's sandwiched between 2 like pretty high-rated Final
Right.
Fantasy games.
Yeah.
I mean, Final Fantasy IX is one of the greatest games ever made. It's hard.
I never really played 9. I played it for like 2 minutes, and I was like,
it's
this guy's
real
got a
good.
tail. What's going on? And I
It's
stopped
real
playing.
good. Gets exploded.
Well, I'm sure it does.
Real good game.
I need to
Gotta
play
play.
6.
Yeah, you
I've
I
never
wish-
finished 6.
I wish I could go back and play through 9 for the first,
first time,
again.
yeah.
The game for
I
me,
feel that
just
way
really
about
quickly
Bloodborne.
before we move on, that did not click for me was Animal Crossing on GameCube.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought it sounded really cool. Being able to live your life in this town and interact with people, and the time of day made a big difference, and how much customization there was. But I played it and I was like, I don't get it. What am I supposed to do?
Doing chores, yeah.
Everything is really boring, and I just at that time I had not encountered a game like that.
I have a question. Were you playing with friends on the same system or anything like that? Okay.
Just playing it by myself. None of my other friends wanted to play Animal Crossing.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately. And then I kind of ignored Animal Crossing, and then I played New Leaf. And
Now look at you.
New Leaf. Do you ever have those games that you just want to be with forever? That was New Leaf for me. It was just such a fun, awesome place, and the community surrounding that game was so positive and exciting and creative. Like I just wasted entire weeks just thinking and being in Animal Crossing. It was so awesome. I was like, I finally get this, and I was an idiot for not realizing it sooner. Yeah,
Better
Animal
late than
Crossing is
never.
great.
Better late than never.
Do all of you like Animal Crossing?
Yes,
Yeah.
I love Animal
I
Crossing.
want it on Switch.
I want it on
It's the
Switch so badly.
perfect place for it.
I haven't played much of it, and I can't think about it without getting really sad because of that story about that guy's mom. Who,
Oh
like,
no, let's not do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
No.
I can't do those games because of that.
I
I just
feel like-
get like too intense. It's too sad for me.
For our audience, we do have to explain that story there, though. I don't think we
I-
can just throw
I'll
that
do a
out.
short version because I can't remember exactly what it was, but a guy, his mom was sick. He gave her Animal Crossing because he thought she would like it, but it was like his old account or something.
His memory card.
Yeah, and she was playing it in a way that he thought was wrong. He's like, Mom, you got to do this stuff. You're not doing that other stuff. And he got like a little irritated. He's like, no, you're not doing it right. But then years later, after she had died or whatever, he popped into Animal Crossing and realized that what she had been doing was sending gifts to his town or his house. And that was all her priorities, was just send him presents in the game. I'm going to like cry if I talk about this anymore.
Yeah,
but
it's
like,
really
that is
emotional, dude.
so intense to me. I can't handle it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It was her way of trying to get closer to and spend time. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, oh my God.
We gotta
Yep.
move on, Ben.
Look that
Please.
up.
Move on.
It's
Please,
Animal
Ben.
Crossing, no.
Yeah.
Ending on a crunch. Our last email. How do I recommend Nier? Since the release of Nier a couple of weeks ago, I've run into a repeating problem. I can't convince anyone to play Nier without spoiling Nier Automata without spoiling the story elements or mechanics of the game that make it worth playing. And the things I can say are so vague and meaningless that I'm at a loss. I've seen this pattern repeated in several other groups. Giant Bomb, Easy, Super Best Friends Play. Kind of a slam there. I'll take it. Where there seems to be a single member trying to vouch for the game, but to little avail. So here's my question: how do I convince someone to play Nier and games like it?
Have several people tweet at the person you want to play that it's a nihilist masterpiece. That worked for me.
And we're doing our best here. We're playing so many games right now.
Yeah.
We're trying to play what we can, okay? I want to play it.
Yeah, I think part of the one ally thing too is like we got to diversify, you know?
Yeah.
Nier's covered on your end. And
Right.
Brad's doing the Lord's work, streaming the original Nier. That's
Right.
badass.
It's
Getting everyone gone.
I think sometimes there's this impression that one person is trying to lord over this game, and it's just like,
Yeah,
no, we just gotta like somebody
Go
we
different
gotta, We
ways.
gotta go different ways.
You're going that way, I'm going this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take
Yeah,
the
it's
high
not,
road.
it's
I'll
not a
take the near
hostile
road.
thing.
No.
That's how I feel as a Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I'm like,
that's.
oh.
that's what I want to touch on. Is
I don't get
there's
that.
nothing there's nothing wrong with recommending things to people or sharing your passion or wanting to share an experience with somebody, but you can't force it.
No.
I see people
I
get
force
so
it.
Huber forces
I
it,
get-
and
I
then
see-
doesn't play it himself.
I see people get so militaristic
That's what I
about the
hate the
recommendation
most, is when
that
people
you're.
do
It's
that.
like, no, you're actually ruining it. It's like,
Right,
hey,
right,
Yep.
right.
this person isn't interested in it. You said your piece.
Yeah, move on.
You did your
Don't
best.
do that.
Move on. Don't worry about it. Don't obsess over it. Just accept that this person doesn't care, and that's okay. That
Are
doesn't.
we?
I think
Am
it's
I
like,
getting militaristic with
no,
Yakuza 0?
no.
Yes.
Is that too much?
You're
Should I
just
dial
you're
back
doing
down
it.
to
You're doing it in like a gentle way. You're not
Okay.
being like, if you don't play this, I'm gonna get angry at you.
Okay,
It's just
good.
like
Right.
say one
Well,
nice
I
thing
mean-
about Yakuza.
You've gotten pretty abusive in the past. You're literally abusing coworkers about scores they've given games. So yeah, sometimes you might go over the edge.
Oh,
Mike's
Literally
coming
calling
from a
people
place.
out.
Mike's coming from a place of like toxic positivity.
You
though.
were a little militaristic with Knack. That was one.
That's a joke, though. Come on.
But it's an aggressive joke.
It's very aggressive.
Sometimes jokes can hurt.
A little aggressive.
You're right.
But yeah, I
How
think
about we just settle it right now? It's a 5.5. I'll meet you in the middle. I'll meet you in the middle right here, right now. 5.5.
I think all right. I can
Okay.
5.5.
5.5.
5.5.
I will settle on that.
This is a historic
History
moment.
has been made on
We're
this
changing history.
Saturday, April 15th in the year of our
Yeah,
Lord,
write this down.
2017.
At 6:31 p.m. PST.
6:33. I don't
Knack
know what
became
clock-
officially
Knack is officially
a
now.
5.5.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with it too.
And the villagers rejoiced.
But I think
Is that a home
sometimes
improvement reference? I think that's a home improvement reference.
I think sometimes people are trying to get other people to like something to justify it to themselves. Like, man, I think this is really amazing, but you know, my friends aren't into it, or not as many people as I would like to be into it. And it's like, I get you. I understand that it
It's
sucks
not
to
a
be the only guy
reflection
in
on
the party,
you if
Right.
they don't play it.
and it doesn't make the thing any less good.
Right.
It doesn't suddenly make you weird for liking that thing.
Here's a bit of advice. Never be a snob about a game either.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yep.
Don't have your nose up talking about a game.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Share the love.
Yeah.
Brad, that's something. Sometimes I feel like you do have to analyze how you present things. There are times where I've presented a game and I'm like, I did that in a really isolating way.
We're
or I
all
did
guilty of it.
We're all
Right.
guilty of it. And yeah, I will totally cop to that. There are times where I've presented things where I've been disappointed in how I've done it, or it
Oh, yeah, me
like
too.
intentionally came across a certain way, like arrogant or pretentious in a way I didn't mean to. And yeah, we're guilty of it, but I think as long as we recognize that and try to do better the next time,
Totally.
Yeah.
that's all, we can
All
do.
of this said, I don't want it to seem like we're railing against this
No,
person
no,
who asked
no.
the question.
That's
No.
not what this is.
I think the answer to your question would be if something is very important to you and other people aren't seeing the virtues in it, you have to tailor your recommendations for each person individually. You have to think what they like and what you think is in this game that they would respond to, and then approach it from that way. And some people like to see a thing. Some people need to feel the thing, need to play the thing before they understand that, oh, okay, this is for me. Some people just need to know that the themes are there. And if it does mean spoiling it a tiny bit, maybe that's worth it if it does mean that much to you that they give it a shot. But yeah, I mean, you just have to tailor it to the person.
Ian, that's a great point, man.
That is a great.
I really
point.
like
that. was
that.
really well
Yeah.
said.
Because I feel, you know, I try to hype up things that I think certain people will love, but I do have a tendency to hype up things I personally love,
Right.
and maybe
Right.
that's not.
You need to tailor it toward the person. Also, in my experience, when matchmaking friends, don't always think, oh, these two people have these positive elements that would go together. Sometimes look at the darkness within them and pair that up.
I really
my two
want-
friends are married because I thought like, oh, these two have the same like really sardonic kind of dark take on things.
Yeah.
I bet they would like understand each other, and it worked.
That's awesome.
I would love Dr. Ian dating show.
Oh my god, that'd be so weird.
Okay, so
Matchmaking.
look at the darkness within each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you comprehend and accept this darkness?
What is this, Kingdom Hearts, dude?
Yeah. No, but that's what it is. That's what it is. Like true friendships, true relationships is when people look at the worst of you
Yeah.
and then can understand and accept that. There's something to be said for that.
Absolutely.
I think
Also, I mean, unless the worst of you is just awful, then
Yeah.
check yourself.
One of my favorite things of all time.
Stop chopping people up.
One of my favorite things of all time is that Ian is a Kingdom Hearts expert, but has never played one.
I did play the first one for like an hour, and I was like, I don't care for this.
Cutting that timeline.
Yep.
Cutting that
I know
timeline.
far more about Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
than I care to.
You probably know more about me, and I've played all the games.
Yeah.
It's so
the more you
good.
play, the less you know.
Yeah. The more you look, the less you see.
I think that's a good note to end this podcast on.
Give me that Kingdom Hearts lore, dude. All jokes aside, I want it. Get nuts.
If you want more of us, please consider, if you like what you see, if you like us, if you like our opinions, if you want to hear more discussions, please consider going to patreon.com/easyallies, contributing $1. It helps us cover more things, do more things, make those things better. We always greatly appreciate your support. And yeah, this was a whirlwind of an episode.
I feel like every time I'm on this
Emotional.
show, it is. It's
It
just
is
crazy.
Yeah,
Very
I feel
It is
I feel
intense.
drained.
Yeah, I'm very tired now.
I hope that makes for a good show. But whether you liked it, disliked it, hated it, loved it, let me know. I'm listening. I'm reading. Until next time.